Hello, good morning, my Teaserking family. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Overall, I had a good weekend. Um, Hit the lock yesterday, Seattle, as a road dog, and in the college locks, we hit UCLA over, we hit Oklahoma over, we hit Iowa State under, we lost on the Oak State game because the quarterback. And I was watching the highlights of that game. We almost won it. It's at 53, and Oak State's driving at the end of the game. They score a touchdown. It gets to 60, and I believe that would be a W. Washington State, Stanford, we lost that lock. Kansas State, Texas, we win. Houston, SMU over, we win. Kansas State, Texas over, and then SMU, Houston lock wins. The free play, Georgia over Tennessee, and we lost the Clemson free pick. So overall, not too bad. I hit a lot of good games, the Georgia game. And then in the pros, now the pros was really kind of strange yesterday. I hit all the games, and I lose some of the over-under. So example, I have Detroit, but I play the over. I have Atlanta, and I play the over. Instead of playing the team, I'm playing the over-under because I don't trust the team. Oakland, Jacksonville, I like the game under, which was good. I like Jacksonville, which was good. Chicago, I hit the over there, and I had the Bears as a home dog, but I'm not betting both of them, but I'm just saying. New England, I liked, and the under, I didn't play either. Carolina, so I finally play Carolina, and they get blown out. Baker Mayfield comes in the game, but after halftime, so I don't know what happened there. They couldn't stop Mixon, he's not that good of a running back. Minnesota, Washington, I like Minnesota, and they win at the end. Buffalo, the Jets, I call the Jets. I don't play them, but I call them. Seattle, LA, yes, I finally play a team that wins. So Seattle plus the 8 wins by 10. That's how you like a lock, is when your team getting points is winning the whole game. Tampa Bay Rams under, which comes in. KC, Tennessee. Had KC, but I didn't play it because there was too many points. And then tonight, I like New Orleans. And the over, although I don't know if I still like the over, because with Bateman and the tight end out, I'm not sure how Baltimore is going to score. New Orleans has a fairly good defense, and I like their offense, and it's all Kamara. So I like New Orleans straight, not with the over under. I mean, not in a teaser, but not with the over under. So, lessons learned. We got to be a little more careful with these college totals, because you want to get them in early because they change relatively fast. They don't move by the line. All of a sudden, they move 5 points. Example, so UCLA, I think I got in at 61. It goes to 66. That doesn't matter. They put up 86. So that's really the question is, are you really going to get hurt if you wait and you get it in later with the 3 points, like Utah, Arizona? I didn't bet it because Rising, I don't know. Saturday, I don't know. Ends up being he does play. The line was already established that he was playing. It didn't move down. They get a 65. Over under was 67. Now, Arizona, I think, scored late to cover it. But would I wait till Saturday to make that versus betting it on Monday? Now, that line never moved. 67 was always the total. Baylor, Oklahoma. Now, for example, I got Baylor at 57. I went over on Monday, and then it ended at 61.5. So it climbed 4.5 points for some reason, and then never climbed again. That was an easy over. They go to 73. I'm in the 50s, so I'm over probably at halftime again. So the reason I'm asking the question is, does the benefit outweigh, because they're fucking around now with the injuries, right? So here you have Oak State's quarterback out. If he plays, it's an easy over. Hey, Greg and John. We're just reviewing last week. So does it matter, should I have gotten Oak State? I mean, it was a 53. It ended up going all the way down to 60 because the quarterback was out. So do you take the risk of the quarterback, an injury you don't know about? When I bet it on Monday, I had no idea Sanders was even injured. And he played in the prior week, and then I saw like the backup got like 2 of 4 for 5 yards. In a 49-0 game, you figure, well, maybe they're just getting the guy in there for some practice. So you're really not sure of again, I'll talk risk and reward because I do it on 4th downs. What is my risk? The risk is the line goes up, which I know is going to go up unless the injury. The reward is I get it in like Baylor. I get it in at 57. I'm over 51, which is a joke in Baylor, Oklahoma. The risk is somebody gets hurt on Friday. And the reward is it was a lock. I bet big on it and I won. So the reward took care of it. That was my biggest lock of the year so far was 27 units. I had Baylor, Oklahoma over with UCLA over. Love that. Arizona State scores, no defense. UCLA, now they didn't go over against Stanford. And I had one of my family say, oh, we're going with UCLA over again. And I go, that happened with Stanford, but what does the play say? And Arizona State has a very weak defense, and they score, and that's what you got, 50-36. It was like, I think it was 28-10 at half. So I was already at 38, and I only needed like 60 or 58 or something. That was the highest lie. I was 27 units. Once I get over 21, then I want you to unload. But I do want you, if I had locked Oak State, Kansas, and then the injury happened. So what do we do, right? We've already made the bet. What do we do with it? So we have to determine, do we try? Now, I thought about just playing the game under, but I didn't. It was locked with Iowa State, and they were both on at 330. So I already had Iowa State under in a lock with Oak State over. That was 21 units. So I already have it. So the question is, I can't really bet the under in it because Iowa State under didn't win yet. It did win 31-14, perfect, 45, and it was 56. Beautiful. That's why I locked it. It was a high over under of 50, and nobody's scoring a lot on Iowa State. And I think they got Oak State this week. So without the quarterback, if the quarterback plays, that's an easy winner. So the benefit in the line went to 49.5, 50.5 in the Iowa State game. So the risk was getting in early and then finding out Friday night that Sanders is in a sling and he made the trip and couldn't go. But he's not listed on the injury report. And Rising was the same way the week before, but he was a game time decision. But he should have been listed as questionable. Now, this week, he was listed as questionable, and then he went to probable Friday night. So I knew, or Saturday, I went, and he was probable. And I said, well, maybe I should bet him with Seattle, but I was like, well, we'll leave it alone. I don't know how healthy he is. Is he going to play the whole game? So now he's played the whole game, so he's okay. Probably he's still a little banged up. So until Sanders comes back, I'm not going to fuck around with Oak State. But it gets to the question, at what point do you make your bet? The earlier you get a better line. Now, because of my ability and my skill set in this and doing it forever, I know the line. I knew the UCLA Arizona State line's going up, as well as I knew Baylor Oklahoma starts at 57, goes to 61. So that's where my skills tell me bet the game early. Now, in the Oak State game, it was 65 when I bet it, went down to 64, and it was staying there. And then 60, when he finally says, okay, I can't go, then it went Kansas -3 and 60, which is what I told you. I said, if he's not playing, that's what's going to happen, and that's what happened. So I knew he was out. At that point, what do you do? Do you take Kansas? And we don't know the backup quarterback. It wasn't the coach's son. It was somebody else, and he looked okay, but he threw like 3 interceptions. We lost the bet because Kansas had the ball at the 2-yard line and kicked a field goal, which is okay, but that would have been a touchdown. They missed another short field goal and another one. So, or they made 2 others, but they weren't scoring touchdowns. They were down there all the time. I mean, and then we had the turnovers. And then Oak State at the end of the game was at the 20 going in. You know, it's the score is 37-16. And had we scored, we would have won. It would have been 37-23, and that would have been 60, and that would have been a W. So we, even with the backup, got close. Even with the spread down to 60-54, we still lose. So, but I know my 4 points went on a 4th and 1. I think that it was once they went for it on 4th. Anyway, so that's really the question. And what outweighs what? Do you rather put the bet in early and get the good line? Now, this is new, these risking of the injuries. Now, again, you could get an injury in the middle. He could have got hurt the first play of the game, Sanders, or he was already hurt. He's going to play, but he can't, he plays a little. He says, I can't, like Van Dyke. Van Dyke in Miami plays. He's playing, and he re-injures his shoulder in the second quarter, and that's it. So I guess it depends on the injury and the type of team and who they're playing. All of a sudden, Florida State's got a football team. Who knew? My college team is UConn. Well, they're better this year, Greg. They got Jim Moore Jr. to coach them. See how the coach makes a difference? They bring in him. He used to coach UCLA and in the NFL. Now he comes to Connecticut. They're running the ball more. They're not a Z team anymore. So, it's fine. Most teams go ebb and flow. It's usually they bring in a new coach. It's always the quarterback. They get a good quarterback, they can win. Look at Coastal Carolina with McCall. I was looking at his numbers. He's like 20 touchdowns and 1 interception. And they won on Saturday, and it's just without him, Coastal Carolina sucks. But with him, they're a whole better team. So that's where the coach gets lucky. Where he, like Belichick, he had Brady. Without Brady, he's in trouble, and he goes with Jones instead of Zappe. I mean, can't he see Zappe's this real good player? Like, what the hell? Anyway. So let's just quickly go through the games. We'll go through the college. We won't have to do the MAC. We'll start with App State, Coastal Carolina. That was the game I was just talking about. Coastal Carolina wins 35-28. That's all because of McCall. App State, I don't know what they are. They gave up 100 points to North Carolina. Then they beat A&M. And then they lose to James Madison. So they're a pretty good team with a pretty good quarterback. The defense isn't as strong or injured. And then here comes Coastal Carolina, and they just pop a 35 with McCall, and that's what you get with McCall. So he was able – the defense wasn't too bad. So what are we trying to stay – what is our lesson here? It's a Georgia game. You can't fuck with a good under with an offense, right? You play the defense. So Tennessee, Hooker had 20 pressures, sacked, a bunch of times. You don't want to play Hooker against a defense like Georgia. You want to play him. Apparently, Alabama does not have that good of a defense. But that's what you are looking for, bad defenses to play good quarterbacks against. So that's really lesson learned. So then we get Duke against BC. Duke wins 38-31. Good offense. They got a good quarterback, Riley Leonard, but he's also kind of a runner, but he's a good thrower too. So I don't mind these dual quarterbacks if they can throw it good, because they're a quarterback first, and then if they start running. But it's when they can't throw that then you're losing half of your offense, because I don't have to worry about your passing game. So I just leave two guys out there, bring the safeties up, and good luck trying to move on you. Connecticut beats UMass 27-10, a good win for them. UMass, the worst team in college football. Keep that in mind. So Connecticut's laying 15, wins by 17. but it was a cheap spread, only to lay 15 to a Z team. But Connecticut isn't that strong offensively, or we would have bet them if they were a more potent offense. Washington, again, here we go. Oregon State, very good, a very good defense. Washington State wins 24-21, but you can see they score 40 points a game, and here comes Oregon State or Washington State, two very good defensive teams, and they struggled with Cal, beating them 28-21. So this goes back to the beginning. Hey, Alex, how are you? This goes back to the beginning when you're grading the teams. The point of the team is, okay, North Carolina, let's go to Washington, Oregon State. So you grade the team. You go, well, Washington's got a good quarterback. They got the coach from Fresno who lights it up. So they are an offensive team, but their defense sucks. Then you add, here's Oregon State, who's not a bad team, who's got a very good defense. So I don't want to fuck with Washington against this strong defensive team. So I got to be careful. Do I take Washington maybe under? Now here I took over because it was only 54 and I needed 48. And I almost got there. It was 21 all. I needed was one more touchdown and it's a winner. But that shows you they didn't score 40 points against a strong Oregon State team. Tim Tebow was like that, could run, not pass. Yeah, of course. And that was the whole point. That really was the start of all this running quarterback crap. They did win at Florida, but that was Urban Meyer, and he had a good defense, and they had a good running attack. But remember Tebow's first year, I think when they won the title, they had another quarterback lock, so he would do the passing, and then Tebow would come in around the goal line to run, or on 31. He was like a tight end. Then I remember for some reason Denver wasted a first-round draft pick on the guy. So that tells you how weak the GMs are. They waste a first-round draft pick on the guy, and then what happens? He can't complete 10 passes in the game. He's like 20%. What kind of quarterback is that? Somehow Denver made the playoffs. Somehow they beat Pittsburgh in a playoff game. But as soon as they could get Manning, Tebow was gone. So, again, that's why I kind of look at these running quarterbacks. If they can't, it's okay if they're Mahomes and Russell Wilson, who could run, but they are pocket passers, or my Jefferson from Arkansas, and even Hooker's a pocket passer who can he reminds me of Mahomes. He's a good passer, but if he needs to scramble because the blitz is coming, except for against Georgia. Georgia has their system where the quarterback doesn't get away. You'll watch, look at the Alabama championship game. They blitz them in a way, and they have so much speed at linebacker and cornerback that they blitz you in a way that when you try to roll around it and go outside and they're right there. The cornerback comes up and nails the guy. So that's Georgia's not secret, but what they do better than anybody is they get the inside blitz, and then the outsides come, and when the quarterback tries to get away, they're faster than the quarterback. So they have a lot of speed, Georgia. If I was like the Lions or any of these I would just get the Georgia defensive coordinator. I wouldn't have let him go to Oregon, and I'd leave him as my defensive coordinator, and I'd say, okay, I want this Georgia defense. So you get whatever players you need in here. I want this Georgia. You give up 6 points a game in college football. Now I want that defense. So you make that happen. Get the players we need. I don't care if you draft the whole Georgia defense. Just get those players. It's proven, and it will work in the pros because it's the speed that even these little hitches that they throw to the wide receiver screens, Georgia blows those up. They blow out the how many times did Hooker actually run Saturday? Like once. So anyway, so that's what you got to be careful of. So when you're analyzing the game, you got to know the team. That's what I do. So that's what I did last night. I bring in the new stats, and basically most of the team by this time of the year are pretty much stable. So you add one, 75-0 maybe changes it 2 or 3 points, but in a normal 35-17 game, the numbers aren't moving. So you pretty much know Oregon State's a great defense. They're a B team with the strong defense, not going away, and you can see that. But you got to be careful with injuries. Now, we don't know a lot of the defensive players' names. We know the quarterbacks, but we don't know. So there's nothing much you can do. But you got to realize defensively, it's the scheme, and they're going to have. It's not 11 guys, right? It's probably there's first down guys, there's third down guys, they're going to pass. It's 3rd and 10 versus 3rd and 1 versus 1st and 10, 2nd and 2 versus 2nd and 15. So it's the whole different pass rush package and that. So you got 20 guys hitting the field. So one injury usually isn't a big deal. I know, Alex, you told me the best Georgia defensive player was out, and I just kind of said that don't matter. It didn't matter. It's not like the quarterback. Spencer Sanders goes out for Oak State. That's huge. But if one of their defensive players went out, I wouldn't have cared, especially since I like the game over. So that's what you got to be aware of. So that's why I'm looking at each team, and I scout the team, and I tell you. So Air Force Army, this was a beautiful play. Air Force is a good team, good defense. Army's been a weak defense, except for they've been playing Coastal Carolina, UTSA, all these passing to Wake Forest. So here you get Air Force. Now they know. Now I looked at the numbers, and they both run like 300 yards a game, but they both know how to defend each other's offense because they both play the same offense, basically. So I go, and the light goes on. I go, wow, the over-under is 40. I got to go under with it. Like Army-Navy's always low scoring because when they run their plays, the defense sees it in practice every day. But if a neutral team sees it, they don't know the speed, and they don't have the same speed as if you can't simulate their offense in practice. Anyway, so I go under 46.5. The game's 13-7. The first score I saw was like 13-7, a minute left in the game. I go, okay, I think that's going to stay under 46. But that's what you look for, that common theme, and that's Army and Navy will be the same lock under as that, as long as it's over like 36. North Carolina, Virginia, again, I got to be careful. I got Virginia as a under team, strong defense. I got North Carolina with an over team. I like their quarterback, May. The spread was 7.5. So I took North Carolina. They've been playing well. They beat Duke. They beat Miami. I said, okay. Virginia, the quarterback was injured, but he played, I guess. And I laid 1.5. And they were up 31-21. Virginia got a late touchdown. But that's what you get with North Carolina when you get these over defenses. That's what happens. The game gets tight on you, and you try to do that. Georgia was like men versus, Georgia, I'm telling you, Georgia would be at least 5 or 6 pro teams without a problem. Kentucky, Missouri, what do we got? We got under teams. So what's an under team? They don't score a lot, and they have very good defenses, as Kentucky and Missouri do. And over-under was 40.5. I liked it under 21-17 of 38. So they stay under. You don't have really strong offenses, but you got really strong defense. And a really good defense will shut down, as Georgia, Tennessee did, a good offense. So you didn't even have good offenses here. So this was an easy under. Minnesota, Nebraska. Minnesota is a very strong team, very good defense. And Nebraska is kind of an over team, but their quarterback I don't think was playing. And their defense is weak. Remember, Georgia Southern puts up 48 on them. Over under 44.5. I like it under. Another under 20-13. The whole Big Ten virtually is under, except for Ohio State, maybe Penn State. Otherwise, they're all unders. They're all either weak offenses. See, they get into all these running quarterbacks, and their offenses suck. The guy gets yardage in between the 20s, but when they get to the goal line, he can't run it because there's nowhere to go, and they end up with no points. And now you add these idiot coaches going for these 4th downs every time, but they run the stupidest play. Okay, it's one thing if you do it. It's another thing when you run the stupidest play in the world, which we're going to run up the middle. Like in the Michigan State game, it's 10-7. They kick the field goal, tie the game up. No, Michigan State goes for it. At the Michigan 8, it's 4th and 2, and he runs up the middle and loses 3 yards. And you're like, okay, really? If you're going to go for it, which tie the game up, right? That's what you need to do first. You need to keep momentum, tie the game up. I don't know if these coaches think that it's easy to get the 4th and 2s and there's no repercussions, like the other team gets fired up and your team goes flat. I heard one of these idiots, I think it was Tony Romo, and he's saying, well, it's easy to coach now. It's all analytics. And I just laughed. I said, you're a freaking idiot, Tony. You don't go, we're the analytics that keep saying go for it on 4th down anywhere on the field in any situation. I don't know. I don't pay attention to analytics. I think you cannot math football. It's like it's very hard to math baseball, but you can't math football. You can't sit there and go, well, go for it. There's certain times, 4th and 1, you can go for it. At the other team's 40, depending on how the game's going, that's critical. And how is their defense? Did maybe Aaron Donald get hurt? Because if Aaron Donald's in the game, you're fucked. You're not going to get anything on 4th down. And Tampa tried once near the end of the game, and he sacked Brady. But that's where you got to be very careful on these 4th downs. Like you think it's automatic, and they just don't get it. Anyway, Ohio State, Northwestern. Ohio State had a big battle in their hands. They win 21-7, Lane, 37 with an over-under of 55. And what do you do with this game? I mean, Ohio State, they score a ton. And Northwestern's a weak team with a weak defense. There was weather in the game. There was the wind. The tornado we were worried about in Oklahoma, Kansas was in Illinois because it affected Northwestern and the Michigan State-Illinois game. Fortunately, it didn't bother the Bears, which I had over with Miami. So again, this is why it's hard to play on the road in the Big Ten. So I know people are like, oh, Michigan beat Penn State big and Ohio State struggled with them. There's a whole difference if the game was at Ohio versus the games in Northwestern. And this is Northwestern, but look, if the game was at Ohio, that wouldn't be 21-7. How did Detroit win? Rodgers threw 3 of the worst interceptions. He threw one at the goal line that hit a helmet or a defensive lineman. It hit him. It bounced up in the air. The guy's wide open for a touchdown. The next one, he's throwing to it's 4th and goal at the 2, and he's throwing like to a lineman eligible, and he floats it, and the defense bats it down. So they're at the 2-yard line. They're at the goal line 3 times, and just terrible throws. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It's not like Detroit. Their defense didn't do shit. It was not Detroit. It wasn't like all of a sudden their defense is good. And that's what I heard on the radio. So I'm driving home from swim, and I'm hearing, oh, the Lions did this and the Lions did that. Let me see that. They're all excited, right? Oh, they look. Now the defense is the strength of the team. Really? I go home and I watch the game on YouTube. It's 20 minutes. You get the highlights. Their defense sucks. It still sucks. They should have had at least 21 more points. Detroit, of course, went on 4th down at the Green Bay 5 and, of course, didn't make it. So there should have been 28 more points in there. It would have been an easy over. It was over 43. We get to 24, and there was at least 3 touchdowns on the board. That's 45. It's a winner, and they were there. I mean, Green Bay was at the 2-yard line twice, and Detroit was at the 5. And I mean, Detroit doesn't understand. The coach is lost. Like, he always goes for 4th down. What the fuck are you doing? He doesn't understand the mentality, and he doesn't understand the field position. He doesn't understand keep the moment. He doesn't understand momentum. Okay, let's put it that way. These coaches don't get momentum. For some reason, if it's 4th down, they just think they're going to make it. And the excuse of the analytics, well, 75% of the time I'm going to pick it up. Well, how about the other 25% when you don't? You've just lost the game. So anyway, that's what happens. Iowa, Purdue, Iowa, we know. Them and Iowa State, the best under teams. Only this time Iowa actually scores, but because their defense is so strong, we don't bet the game because we don't want to play Purdue into this defense. And it ends up where the over-under was kind of low. It went back to 39.5. There's 27. So, again, Sometimes you worry about the line. I always talk about the line makes the bet, the line makes the lock. The lock on Baylor, Oklahoma, when it came out at 57 was an automatic. I quickly check injuries, but I don't even know if I can do that anymore because if they're not going to post Spencer Sanders and they're not going to post Rising, what the hell am I supposed to do? I don't know what am I supposed to call these guys up? Hey, coach, is Rising playing? I don't know. Hey, coach, is Sanders playing? Well, it's a game time decision. We don't know. And that's what he was saying. So what do you do with it? But at least it could have been posted that he was injured. So now I know Sanders is injured. I think they get Iowa State this week. So this is going to be a good under if I get a normal point spread. So Iowa keeps the game low scoring, 39.5, under 45.5, 24-3. See, Purdue, you can't do anything on that defense. It's a good defense. That's what you got to be careful of. A good defense will shut you down. Maryland, Wisconsin, Maryland's a decent offense. Tagovailoa always chokes in these type of games against good defenses, just like his brother. He doesn't show up. Wisconsin gets a win, hard to believe, 23-10. Over-under was way high. It was 48. So you don't know what Maryland's going to do. They got their 10, so it was 23-10. Now, Wisconsin goes to Michigan State, loses 38-31. So this is the point. Like, well, what the hell? How do they give up 38 to Michigan State? Granted, in overtime, it was 31-all going to overtime. And then at home against Maryland, they give up 10. So it's just crazy how much factor the home team is for most of these teams. And it all comes down to running the ball. And that's what I'm going to get is when I get to Michigan. So this game also goes in. So the whole Big Ten's like under. Then we get the Florida A&M. Where does Florida find points? I got them as an over team with the terrible defense. How they beat Utah, I have no idea. That should never have happened. A&M is a weak team with a strong defense, I thought, but apparently I don't know what I'm seeing. They hold Alabama 24-20. Texas holds Alabama 20-19. Texas plays a 34-27 with Kansas State, which I have over, so I'm happy with. So I don't know who Alabama is, but A&M loses 24-20. And here's 41-24 Florida. So where does Florida find 41 points? And their quarterback is just a runner. He's like 6 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, So he's another one of these running type of quarterbacks. That's what I don't like about him. And he has trouble, obviously, against Georgia and Alabama, but they did put up 20 on Georgia. And here 41-24. See, Georgia just eats up a pocket passer. I think Alabama, well, they're going to play LSU, who's a running, so it's going to be more like the Florida game. Georgia will still kill them, but Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, we've been on TCU every week. I love their coach, very explosive offense. So even when they're down, me and Alex had them against Kansas State. They're down 28-10. They win 38-28. Here, not really. It was close a little bit, and then they pull away 34-24. Texas Tech, kind of a weak defense. I never thought about the over in the game because the spread was only 7. And I said, well, TCU at home is going to win. I didn't worry about the over. The over was really high at 69, and it didn't move. Opened at 69, closed at 69, and the score is 58. So you don't get your over there. Because now if the over was 59, 60, I would have blocked the over. But at 69, it's too high. And so I thought TCU -1's a much better play. And they should be in the playoff without a problem. They can, I guess it's going to be them, Ohio State, Georgia. And then it's a question of is it a Pac-10 power or are you going to go with Tennessee? But the more Alabama loses, the less the Tennessee win looks. So I don't know. All I know is they got killed by Georgia, and that's Oregon's excuse. Well, you lost to Georgia 49-3. Okay, well, Tennessee, you just got buried by Georgia. How is Tennessee better than Georgia? Or better than Oregon when Oregon's only loss, they beat UCLA, who's one of the best teams. So I think UCLA, Utah, Oregon all should be in the playoffs. That's why it's stupid to be 4 teams. Tulane, Tulsa. I remember getting asked on this game. Tulane was the A team, Tulsa the over team, and as we are seeing, this is what we're finding: the A team with the good defense beats the over team. Final 27-13. So Tulane just dominated them, and Tulsa with the big offense, but can't score on the defense. And Tulane going against a weak defense in Tulsa was able to get 27. See, Tulane's a good under. Just Tulane played Iowa. That's a lock under, right? If they play half the Big Ten, if they play Minnesota, if they play Kentucky, Missouri, if they play Virginia, all those are just automatic unders, as long as the spread's somewhere in the 40s. And that's all because you just know they're an A team too, but it's the under. So there you go. You take the defense over the offense. There we go again. Western Kentucky, Charlotte. I don't know what happened in this game. It was like 42-0 at half. It ends 59-7 West Kentucky. I know Charlotte's defense gives up over 40 points a game. So this is a field day for Western Kentucky because Charlotte's offense is terrible. And the thing about Western Kentucky, they actually have a good defense this year. So maybe they're running it more because they're not as explosive. The over-under was 72. They never got close to it. They ended 66. You get a push and a teaser if you go to 66. But here's where the over-under 72 that opens. It never moves. Nobody could. You can't bet against that. I thought about it because Western Kentucky is not. Zappy's not there putting up 50 touchdowns and 2 interceptions like you did last year. So it's a more controlled, more running, and a better defense. Georgia Tech, VTech. Georgia Tech, I think Sims plays their quarterback. Virginia Tech's just they don't score. Their defense is so it's not an under defense, which you think it is at Virginia Tech, but not this year. And so the dog's good. I like the game under, but it didn't go under because I think Georgia Tech's got a weak offense. So maybe their quarterback didn't play and the backup looked good. Everywhere but Oak State, the backup comes in and does fine. So this game, Georgia Tech wins 28-27. Again, a weak favorite in Virginia Tech. The over-under you couldn't have saw because both offenses are weak. So you can't – how do you go over with that? And the over-under was 40. So it's not like they were expecting a high-scoring game. So here's just one of those where probably turnovers. Turnovers really fuck the over-unders because it all depends where they are. All right. So lock number 1, UCLA, Arizona State. My spread's UCLA by 14, comes in at 10. Over under, I think starts the week at 63. I see it in the low 60s. It's an automatic lock on Monday. It goes to 66.5. Charbonnet doesn't play the running back, but I don't care. The backup ran for 150 yards. It's Thompson Robinson. He plays. He lights it up. Arizona State, they got their backup in who's better than their starter again, and he's more of a pocket passer. Emory Jones was more of one of these running quarterbacks. So new coach comes in, they fire. This is why you get fired. You don't play the right players. They bring in this guy, all of a sudden they're lighting it up. UCLA, I think I had won it at half. It was I think it was 38-10 at half or 28-10. It was upper 30s at half. They end up 50-36. 86-point game. We're laying 57. I mean, that's why it's a lock. The risk is, do I bet it at 63 or do I wait till it goes up to 66? I know it's going up per no injury. And it does. It goes up 3 points. Why does it stop at 66.5? I have no idea. Why didn't it go to 70? But there we go. UCLA. Now, UCLA wins by 14. This is why I go over and under. I don't care about that. Just score in this type of game. And Arizona State, weak defense, beautiful. Thompson Robinson will eat it alive, which he does. UCLA's defense is an even defense. They'll give up 25, but we saw them against Washington. We saw them against Utah. And we saw them against Oregon, and all 3 games were in the 70s. So while they have a good defense against Ball State, when they play the passing offensive teams, their defense doesn't, it's okay, but it's going to be a track meet. And that's what we want, though. We want this to be an over. Hey, Sean, hope the weekend went well for everyone. Thank you, Sean. We're just reviewing it right now. South Florida Temple. Temple can't score. All of a sudden, lights it up. 54-28. Seriously, I don't know what happened there. South Florida sucks. Terrible coach. Again, an over defense. So even a team like Temple can light it up. And since neither team really had a good defense, you don't look. That's where you don't go under, right? We go under with Iowa. We go under with Iowa State with those suffocating defenses. But in this case, you didn't have it. Arizona, Utah. Utah was 17.5, 67 the whole week. Never moved. They end up winning 45-20. Arizona gets a late touchdown with like 2 minutes left to get the over. I'm waiting all day to make the bet. Now, as I said, if I was at Caesar's Palace and it's 5 minutes before I make the bet, but here I got to post it. You guys got to get it and know it's on there. I tried telling you in the morning video, if he doesn't move, Rising's playing, bet it. So I hope that people had Utah over. 67, you teased it to 61. You could have played it with UCLA, which was a 10:30 game. Seattle, which was my Sunday lock. You could have played all that. So anyway, there you go. Rising does play. The running back plays a little. The receiver doesn't play. The tight end doesn't play. So at least Rising played the whole game. I assume he looked good. You probably could have played the other game. If the week before game was against, USC or somebody like that, or BYU, his rival, he would have played it. But because it was against somebody weak, it was against Washington State, who's not weak, but they have a good defense. He doesn't play the game. And therefore, he doesn't play. But had he needed to play, he would have. So here they pound Arizona, 45-20. And this is why everything's an over. You got Rising, you got Thompson Robinson, you got these good quarterbacks. The defenses are okay. But Arizona has a good quarterback, the La Russa from Washington State. He transferred to Arizona. And this is what you pick up in the beginning of the year. The first game, Arizona lights it up. They score like 50 points. No, they beat Boise or something. They beat San Diego State. They put up 38 on San Diego State, which nobody does. And what the hell's going on? I see De La Rula in there, transferred from Washington State, and he's lighting it up. And I'm going, shit, Arizona's got an offense this year. They don't have a defense, but they got an offense, so they're a perfect over team, like Arizona State. So when Arizona State, we're going over unless it's in the 70s. So you put your mark down, like 63 is like, that's it. If it's 63, anywhere around there, we're betting it over. If it's 70, we got to be careful. So that's how we found it, right? I'm looking at quarterbacks constantly. I'm looking for weird scores. I'm not expecting a San Diego State score to be in the 38s. It was 38-20. I'm not expecting that score by Arizona against San Diego State, but that's what they did. So now Arizona over. So that's noted. And then when you get them against UCLA and you get them against, I think we got them against UCLA this week or USC. It's going to be an over. I think we got one of those too, because they're all in the same. Arizona State, UCLA, Utah, and USC are all in the same division, so they're all going to play each other. So you got 5 of these games with each team, right? Utah, UCLA, Utah, USC, Utah, the Arizonas, and they all. It's all. We got like 20 of these bets coming up here. It's just wonderful. Marshall, Old Dominion. Marshall, strong defense. They went to Notre Dame and won. Oldie's an even team with a weak defense, so you're expecting an under. The over-under was 46. Marshall wins 12-0. So Marshall must have this fabulous defense and no quarterback. The quarterback's Grant Wells, from I don't know. I don't remember. I think he came from no, he is from Marshall. I don't know where he came from, but he played last year at a different team, transfers here. That's why you don't get all excited about the transfers, because they're only because they suck. Like the kid Martinez from Nebraska goes to Kansas State and he sucks. Will Howard's the real stud at Kansas State. And then you had Bohannon leave. Baylor goes to South Florida, gets injured. Well, if he was any good, he would have beaten out the Baylor guy. But the Baylor guy sharpens better and beat him out, so he goes to South Florida. Well, when Shapen got hurt, he could have came in and played. Anyway, so Baylor, Oklahoma, I think we talked about. Baylor, great team. An E defense. So when they play the big boys, Oak State put up 36 on them, Texas, all these teams. Here comes Oklahoma, who has a great offense and a terrible defense. Texas puts up 49. Kansas puts up 40 on them. On and on and on. They have no defense. Beautiful game. I bet the game over 57 right away. Goes to 61.5. I think I bet it again. I bet it. I had it in two. I had UCLA in two teasers. I had Baylor, Oklahoma, two teasers. I had Iowa State, two teasers. I had two teasers. That's the beauty of finding that. When you find that game, you want to bet it twice because it's a good game. So I locked UCLA with Seattle yesterday. So I had UCLA with Baylor, 27 units. Then I come back. I want to put somebody with Seattle. First, I had the Washington over from Friday night. Well, they didn't do it. So I go, well, I still want Seattle. I love Seattle. And so I go ahead and I go, who can I put it with? And I said, fuck it. I only got UCLA in one teaser. So I go put UCLA in with Seattle. And that was the easiest teaser lock I've ever had, except for with Baylor, Oklahoma. So that's when you find that and you find the line, it's like, how many teasers can I bet it in? And so there you go. So we got it. And again, that's where the question goes. Do I bet it at 57 knowing 51 is halftime score, right? Or do I let it go, make sure there's no injuries, and then 61? Well, I right now, I don't think Baylor and Oklahoma, they played. I didn't see anything. I'll check the injuries. I always check the injuries first, but it's what do you do when they don't tell you about it? Like Oak State, they didn't tell us Sanders was injured. What the fuck? Why wouldn't they tell us Sanders is injured? Why isn't he questionable? Then I don't make the play, or like I did with Utah, I wait and then, okay, Rising's playing. Now I'm going to play him. If I don't have Sanders, I never make the play. But I want the good line. And so that's the battle. The risk is there could be now. Normally I'm checking injuries. So normally I'm not going to get screwed on the injury, but you got to double check that. Now I've been nailed on the Cincinnati over, which we won anyway. So I have a lock with Dallas and Cincinnati over. Cincinnati over. Chase gets hurt on a Thursday. I say, well, I got to substitute it. I substituted with the Niners under, which won. And by the way, the Cincinnati over, even without Chase, still won. So we got lucky there. And I was hoping Oak State would do the same thing. But you look at the injuries first, like what the fuck are they not posting the injuries for? How do you not put Sanders questionable when his arm's in a sling? Seriously? And two guards apparently were also out, not on the list. All that was on the list was a few wide receivers, and they were all questionable. One or two of them didn't play. Didn't matter. They got 10 of them. The running back did play, and Sanders didn't. And we still should have had it. We had the ball at the 20 at the end. But with that said, that's your risk. So do I bet the Baylor Oak State at 57? I know that's gold. Or do I wait and bet it? It goes up to 61.5. And funny how it stops there. So it quickly went to 61.5 and stopped. Really, Oklahoma Baylor is only going to go to 60. It doesn't. It goes up and then it stops. So I almost think there's some really bullshit going on where they throw this low line out so the powers to be can bet it, and before the public really gets a chance, because I know a lot of guys I bet with here. One guy, he keeps saying I can't bet it. It's not on the line yet. It's not listed. And then he's got to wait till like Thursday or Friday to bet this game, even though I gave it to him on Monday because it's not even posted. So there's a lot of hanky-panky going on here. This 57 was a bullshit line that they knew was a bullshit line so their friends could bet it. Sound familiar with gold and silver? And then here comes, now we'll release 61.5. And everybody we don't get fucked. We still win with, but that's where you go. And I love how the math guys go, well, I got it at 60, so I'm going to bet it under at 61 and a half. They don't even analyze the teams, these idiots. So, I mean, all I know is there's this one show, and I was picking up dinner Saturday, and they were going, all the money's going on Tennessee. 80% of the action's on Tennessee. And I'm going, the line went from 8.5 to 9.5 means the money's on Georgia. So I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know if they're trying to mislead you into betting Tennessee, but that's why we analyze the games and we don't listen to the outside interference. I don't want people on here. Well, I told you the Raiders suck. I don't want people on here. I don't want anybody writing in their opinions unless they can back it up. One guy, I think it was you, Alex, loved Buffalo yesterday. I know another guy loved Buffalo. All Buffalo's going to win. And I warned you they will not cover the spread. I didn't think the Jets would win. I did think the Jets would keep it close because they're not the Z team Jets. They are a very strong Jet team. Good defensive team. And I warned you, Buffalo on the road sucks. And they lose. So it's exactly as I have said yesterday. There ain't no good team in the NFL that you can sit there and go, they're going to win. Kansas City, 20-17, dicking around with Malik Willis. And real quickly on that game, Chris Collins was going, well, I want to see what he can do if he's my future. And he goes and throws the ball out of bounds, and then he gets sacked 4 times. I didn't hear Chris Collinsworth make a comment after that, well, I guess he's not. Are you really going to find out in 2 drives against Kansas City if that's your quarterback? If you watch the college, Collinsworth, you would see he's not your quarterback. He should never have been drafted. No need to draft a guy like that. He's a free agent at best, and that's what you do. And you waste picks. You wonder why they lose. Anyway, so that's what the thought is. Do I get the bet in now and risk the injury? But I'm checking injuries, so it's only like I know Rising could still be injured, so I'm going to be careful with Utah. I know I'm fine with UCLA, USC, Arizona. Those teams, I looked at the box scores. I'm pretty comfortable. They played the whole game. It was just them. I'll check the injuries, but that's why I kind of in college, I'll wait till today to check the injuries. Anything should be posted. Like Van Dyke, he was there. Rising was questionable this week. That Van Dyke went to probable, but got hurt in the game. So, okay, but we waited, and he did play the first half. All right, so let's go to Middle Tennessee, L-Tech. Over team versus over team. I expect a lot of points. Over under 63.5. I like the game over 40-24, 64. That's how the professor does it. So I'm just ranking the teams and then letting the line tell me what to do. If this is 70, I don't touch it like the Western Kentucky game. If it's in the 50s, it's a lock. I mean, that's as basic as I can get how I lock something. So there's 63.5. I like it over 64. It would have been 57 in a teaser. It's a winner. Georgia State, Southern Miss. Georgia State, very explosive team, as we know. They're over team. Strong offense, terrible weak defense against Southern Miss, who's kind of a weak favorite here. They score in the mid-20s, kind of a good defense, but not an Iowa type of defense. Over under 48.5. I circle the over because it's Georgia State. I figure, that's 42. That's 24-20. Well, the finals 42-14 Georgia State. So Georgia State lights them up, which is, again, weak favorite in Southern Miss. They don't normally score. And then Georgia State lights them up. So you get a 48 there. And that's when Georgia Southern plays Nebraska and Georgia State plays the bigger boys. When they get in conference, it's a joke because they've already, Georgia Southern's like, shit, we beat Nebraska. Who's this guy? Even though Nebraska's bad, they still have better players than most of these Sun Belt teams. So then it was an easy win. So you watch for Georgia State in the overs when they're playing not the best defensive team. Like Troy's a very strong defensive team in the conference. You don't fuck with the over against Troy. But if you get them against like Coastal Carolina or Georgia Southern or App State, then – and the over-under is 50, you're going over very easily. Sean, all that running by Hooker didn't work against Georgia. He's good though. Georgia defense is a different. Well, that's what I was making that comment. If you watch the championship game against Alabama, you start realizing it's their system. They get fast guys who close on that quarterback. And all the other games, you see the quarterback kind of like, he's in the pocket and then he does his little pit, whatever he does, and then he rolls out and he buys time. Mahomes does this, Alabama guy. When you face Georgia, that cornerback is on you like that, or the linebacker's just as fast as the quarterback. And he rolls out and they nail him. He doesn't have a chance to throw the ball. That's Georgia. That's their defense. And the key to that game is Tennessee doesn't have a defense. So Georgia, the whole point, and I stressed this as I gave the pick out, was when Georgia has the ball, they're going to drive and eat the clock, and that's what they did. They scored 3 touchdowns, which is kind of low for Georgia. I picked 44-17. I was pretty close. They could have got there if they needed it. They just worked on the clock, and just bear you down, and then they don't let the Tennessee offense on the field, and they just put him to sleep. He goes back to pass. He's got 1 second, and he's sacked over and over and over. That's Georgia. That's why we bet them under every week, because you're not going to have time to pick them apart, even if you could. But they got good secondary guys, right? And good linebackers and a fast pass rush. So Alex telling me their best player's out, and I'm going, I don't care. It doesn't matter. So what they do to you is they just kill you. They're so fast, and that's what people don't understand. Their speed, but their concept, and you can't roll around. And the only way to beat them is maybe Utah. You got to have a power running attack to be able to run on them. And as you saw, the mobile quarterback doesn't help them. You've got to have Dan Marino, who can get the ball out in 2 seconds. It is the only way that you could possibly beat him, and I don't think anybody could. You've got to get it out of your hands quickly. Or the other way was they shot themselves against Kent. What did they do? They fumbled a punt, and they missed the cornerback, didn't tackle the receiver, and he goes for a touchdown. Okay, did you see that against Tennessee? No, you didn't. In the real game, they're going to be alert, and that's what I kept saying. And that's, when you win the title and you're the best team, and believe me, when they were the number 3 team, have you ever seen in your life a number 1 team in college football, Oklahoma, Alabama, USC, Ohio State, be an 8-point, 9-point dog in your life in any game anywhere? Never. I've never seen a strong number 1 team be a dog. Even be a dog. Georgia's number 1. I guarantee you they will not be a dog. Even they were to Alabama. No, I think they were actually favored in the championship game. But that's a real number 1 team. You need the defense. And maybe Ohio State's the only team that can possibly have a chance to play with them. But after the Northwestern game, I don't even think that's – and they beat half the NFL. If the NFL was smart, I would copy the Georgia Sky, and I would win Super Bowl after Super Bowl, because they're all going to this running quarterback and this offense that gets shut down most of the time. But tell me a team in the NFL who has a defense like this. None. You always had somebody, the Steelers, the Niners, Jimmy Johnson, Lawrence Taylor. You always had that. When Brady won at New England, he had the number 1 defense. He never won without it. And here, Buffalo, they just lost to the Jets. They don't look like a number 1 defense. Buffalo's defense is good because they played the Jets, Miami, and New England, who didn't have quarterbacks. Now they're starting to get quarterbacks, and we'll see. And the Jets don't light them up, but the Jets get enough to win. I mean, this is why I'm not a big Josh Allen fan. 3 interceptions, an interception at the 10. That's when I knew the fix was in on the first drive, and he throws the interception. Who are you throwing it to? You throw it right to the Jet guy at the 10-yard line. I go, oh, there you go. It's fixed. Sean, all these top recruiting classes, they have deep talent at every position. Oh, Georgia's, I assume you're talking about Georgia. They're looking for that fast defensive. Their defense is extremely fast. And when they get drafted in the NFL, half these teams don't know what to do with them. Philly's got 2. And look at Philly. They're undefeated. Cleveland, I think, or somebody else has 2. Chicago, maybe. Detroit should have had 2. Here's my problem with Detroit. They have 2 late first-round picks. What do? They trade both of them. They get the injured wide receiver from Alabama. They got it right. They don't need help on offense. They need help on defense. They could have drafted 2 Georgia defensive players, and their defense would have been so much better. And maybe even go, oh, what's your scheme at Georgia? Why don't we run that here? And then we'll have the number 1 defense giving up 10 points a game. No, they draft a receiver who's injured, who won't play this year, probably won't play next year. If he does play, he's not going to be what he was, and he'll probably get re-injured. Just an incredibly stupid organization. Georgia. Yeah, that's what they do. Alabama, the problem with Alabama is they don't get it. The games pass them by. If you watch the end of the LSU game and the guy scored the touchdown, he just ran through him. It was just a running quarterback. I don't like Daniels, but he runs good. But how did Alabama, if that was Georgia, you think the guy would have ran 50 yards on Georgia for a touchdown? Hell no. But he does. You watch when now LSU is going to play Georgia in the championship game, and this guy is not going. He's going to get sacked 10 times. He won't know what hit him. He's not a good quarterback. They'll kill him, and that's the key. They don't understand, right? But Alabama, why did Alabama let that guy run through? Because Alabama doesn't get it. He's still running 72 Steelers because that's what he learned from Perlis, who was the defensive coordinator of the Steelers. Went to Michigan State. Here comes Saban, the assistant coach, the defensive coordinator, then the head coach, running the Steelers system. But the Steelers system can't handle this. That's why they started losing. They lost to Fouts in a playoff game in 80, I believe. And you always wondered what happened to the Steelers. They win at Super Bowl 78, the 78 season, the 79 season. And you watch the 80 playoff game, you're like, well, Lambert's out there and Mel Blount and Franco Harris and Lynn Swan's still there and Stallworth and Brad. How the fuck did they lose? The only people they lost was Joe Green and Mike Wagner. How did they not beat San Diego? San Diego threw the ball all over on them. And that was the end of Pittsburgh because they couldn't handle that style. I remember the Niners, Joe Montana played them in the year the Niners went to the Super Bowl, so that would be 81, played the Steelers, and Montana beat them, and they just couldn't handle all the diversity of that offense. Anyway, Pitt, Syracuse, Pitt laying 3.5, wins 19-9. Syracuse, very good defense. Pitt's an over team, but again, the better team was Syracuse. They lose 19-9. The over-under was 48. Syracuse quarterback doesn't play, so that keeps the score down, and that's what happened. So 19-9. So when you lose the quarterback, it's more of a running game, and if you have a good defense, they're going to do that. That's what's happening to North Carolina State. It's going to be low scoring, so you bet the under. It turns into an Army-Navy game, right? They're going to start running. That's what Tennessee and Kansas City did yesterday, right? Tennessee just runs it because they didn't have a quarterback. Oregon, Colorado, the Z team with the over. So they got an over defense. Oregon, we know, lights it up. They're laying 31, over under 62. Both win. Oregon wins 49-10. They win by 39. And the over of 62, you tease down to 56. They score 59. So both win. But don't let the high number. Now, Ohio State didn't cover the high number, but they weren't. Northwestern, well, they're a W team, and it was at Northwestern. I'm a little surprised that Ohio State didn't, but the wind played a factor. Here in Colorado, they just lit them up. That's what Oregon does. You know they're going to score a ton. And if Colorado scores, then you bet it over 62. If you don't think they're going to score, then you can lay the 31. And that's what you juggle. Well, how are they going to do against them? So that was an easy over and an easy play. Iowa State, West Virginia, lock number 3. We went under. You've got West Virginia, who's got killed by Texas Tech, and the game was at Iowa State. So West Virginia is a better home team than a road team. They beat Baylor 43-40. They go to Texas Tech, and they lose 38-10. And then here they go to Iowa State. So I got my revenge against them for for fucking up with Texas Tech, letting Texas Tech. I figure if Texas Tech holds them to 10 points, they're not going to score on Iowa State, and they didn't. 31-14. Big game for Iowa State, scoring 31, playing a weak defense. 45, over-under was 50. I bet it under 56. That was a lock. Boom. Oak State, Kansas, we talked about. Quarterback gets hurt. We still almost win it. And I was shocked we got 16 points with the backup, but it wasn't the coach's son who I thought was going to be the coach. Quarterback was another guy with no experience. This is why you got to get the guys in a little bit to get some experience. So when the quarterback gets injured, he plays. And he didn't go in the week prior when they got shut out by Kansas State. This quarterback didn't play. It was the coach's son. This one was a different quarterback, and he wasn't too bad, but he threw 3 interceptions against Kansas. Kansas looked really good. Michigan State, Illinois. Michigan State now had that incident we talked about with the helmet hitting the guy. So the coach suspends 10 players. So I'm all set to lock this game under. Illinois, great defense. The spread jumps from 8 to 16, and the over-under goes from 46 to 40. I'm like, fuck. Now, because the problem is, I thought Illinois is going to score more with all these guys injured suspended again by Michigan State. He had 8 or 9 guys. So I don't play the under. It goes under. Michigan State surprisingly gets 23, wins 23-15. Over under 41. So you go 47, and it's a 38. So they don't even get in the 40s. So the under wins. Illinois laying 16. They can't lay 16. Michigan State still has a good quarterback and receivers and can score, as you can see, 23. Very shocking score. Did the suspensions really help Michigan State play better? So you need to suspend guys to get the other guys pumped up? Are you playing the wrong guys in the first place that you suspend 10 guys on your defense and now you play better? Illinois did have a couple of major turnovers, so Illinois kind of shot themselves in the foot. And again, this goes like Illinois is going to the Rose Bowl, right? If they win, then they're going to play Ohio State in the championship game, and you're sitting there just scratching your head, going, "Shit, they just blew it against Michigan State." So again, that's why I bet more over-unders, because I know Illinois strong defense and they run the ball. They're Navy. But I don't know here they let up 23 to Michigan State. That's the part. That's why I am more driven to the over-unders. I know Baylor, Oklahoma is going to be high scoring. I'm not quite sure who's going to win. I do love Baylor as the dog. So far, they've been dogs 4 times this year. We won all 4 with them as dogs. I've locked, I think, 3 of them. Here I locked the over because it's Oklahoma, who I know has no defense and is going to score. Penn State, Indiana. Penn State laying 13. They're a B team, so they're a pretty good offense and a pretty good defense against Indiana, who's an E team, which is mid-20s offense and defense. So I know they're kind of a weak defensive team. Penn State lights them up 45-14. Laying 13, they win. Over-under goes from 53 to 49 to 51. What the fuck was that? How did he go down 4 and up 2? They score, it's a 59, so the over won. I didn't have any, I don't know. Indiana has receivers that are questionable. Penn State gets buried by Michigan, plays Ohio State really good at home, and now they're going on the road to Indiana. I don't know what I'm expecting. So this looks more like the Penn State team I expected against Michigan and Ohio State. Utah State, New Mexico. Utah State's a Z team. I think they changed quarterbacks here. New Mexico's an under team, though, so they can't take. They have no offense and a very strong defense. One of my under teams. And Utah State's laying 14, which I don't know what you can do with that. Under 43, I like the under. 27-10 at 37. It stays under. All New Mexico State games this year are under games. That whole conference is pretty weak as far as scoring, except for I think 1 or 2, like Fresno State, and I think there's one other that are pretty high scoring. The rest are under. So here's New Mexico, easy under 27-10. You can't fuck with Utah State laying 14. So that was the way to go. So when you find that under team, you more or less want to play them under. Stanford, Washington State. Now here's where I locked the game under, and it got too many. Washington State, an under team with an under defense, and Stanford, an even team with a weak defense. Over under was 49. So I'm going, well, 55, that should stay. And what happens in the first half? Stanford fumbled the ball 5 times on one play. It was like one play fumble, touchdown Washington State, one play fumble. So they're not even running clock, and they keep giving the ball to Washington State at their own 30, and Washington State, boom, boom, boom. So they got 28-0 like in the first quarter on fumbles by Stanford. Like, what the fuck? So again, that's about the only way that we lose these type of bets is the turnover. And you can't say Stanford at home is going to fumble the ball 4 times. You can't say that, but it happens. That's why I can't give 100% locks. That's why the locks aren't 100 units because of this shit. But that's what happened. So we know why we lost. It was a good bet. We can't perceive 5 Stanford fumbles, and I think they went for fourth downs 3 times and didn't get those. So it was just Washington State's got an excellent defense. And normally I locked them against Oregon State. That was a very low scoring game. So that's what you look for. Georgia, Tennessee, we talked about 27-13. Georgia, 20 pressures on the quarterback. They just eat you up. Over under is 65, as I stated. There's no fucking way you're going to get a 70-point game in a Georgia game. It's not going to happen. I thought it would be like 44-17, so I was pretty close. I thought Georgia would score more in the second half, but it didn't matter. It was 27-6 most of it. Late in the game, they got a touchdown, and I'm sure Georgia was pissed that they let up a touchdown. That's why I lock Georgia under every week, because the other team's not going to score on them. And that's why I was shocked when Kent got 22. It's like, but we still won the under there. We still won the under on the Missouri game. But that's why it's lock under with this defense. Is great defense. And now I'm glad that it's always going to be there, right? They're giving up 10 points a game. The best was Illinois at 8, but they gave up 23. So if Georgia plays Illinois, it's under. But that's what you want. You want the 2 defensive teams to go at each other. It's an under. It's when you get the Tennessees, you don't know what's going to happen. But with Tennessee, Georgia could move on Tennessee, and that was the key. And that stayed at 40. So that was very easy play. The number 1 team being called number 3 and being at home and laying 8.5, 9 points. Just unbelievable. My line was Georgia -10, FYI. UCF, Memphis. UCF, fairly good team this year. They got Plumlee, the quarterback from Mississippi, got beat out by Dart, the quarterback from USC, who transferred out because he wasn't Oklahoma. So that's what that move. So Oklahoma moves to USC. All the USC guys, one guy goes to Pitt, one guy goes to Mississippi. The Mississippi guy goes to UCF. And it just shows you they all kind of suck, because if they're any good, they would not have to transfer. So UCF -3.5. They win 35-28 over Memphis. I like the game over. The over was only 60 in a Memphis game. Memphis is usually good for 30. So it was 35-28, 63. The question was the Plumlee, the quarterback, going to play? It was questionable. So probably he played, or if the backup played, he did fine. But they're more of a running team, UCF, than they've been. Normally they were a heavy pass team. UTSA, UAB, a strong B team, which means good defense. UTSA, I love the quarterback, Frank Harris. They're very strong. Now they got running, because I found the channel, was watching the game. And UTSA just looks very strong. And they were way up, and then it went to overtime, which I was shocked. And then UTSA wins 44-38. Over under was 53.5. You don't know what you're going to get because UAB's got a good defense, especially at home. But UTS is such a strong. I wanted to play the dog, which I never got. The spread was even. UAB should have been a 3-point favorite, but their quarterback was questionable, Dylan. So we didn't know what to do with the game. Had UAB been a 3-point, I would have bet strong on UTSA and 9. I didn't get it. I didn't get anybody, so I had no dog to play. And then I didn't know what to do with UAB's defense about the over-under. So it was really a game I was kind of paralyzed on. But UTSA is a very strong team, so keep that in mind. Upset of the day, Arkansas Liberty. I got to check the box score. Did Jefferson play? This game was like 21-0 or 14-0 or something. Unbelievable. So anyway, Liberty wins 21-19. Shocking score. Liberty does have a strong defense, and Arkansas has got a weak defense, but they got Jefferson and a strong offense. I laid away when I saw how strong Liberty had beaten BYU 42-14. I said, okay, not fucking with this team. And they got Hugh Freeze, so they got a good coach, but they're an independent, like Army, like Notre Dame. They're not in a conference. So it took me away from Arkansas because they had beaten BYU. And I circle the over 61, but I don't play it because the quarterback, I'm not sure. Well, no, it wasn't a quarterback. It was just Liberty 42-14 against BYU. So I'm a little bit like, let's see. And then here's Liberty 21-19, which is a shocking score. I'm shocked they held Arkansas to 19, basically. They must have a hell of a defense. So keep that in mind with the Liberty about betting them under. Navy, Cincinnati. Navy's quarterback is out. Levate is gone. He got injured. It's his arm or his leg. So Cincinnati with the strong defense. I thought this game was under. It was 43.5, 20-10 Cincinnati. It's good to see Navy got 10 points, but the Army-Navy game is going to be like, if the over-under is more than 10, we're going under with it. Cincy wins 20-10. Cincy's still an A team. They still have a decent quarterback, strong defense, and they get the win, but they have trouble. They struggled with Navy, who doesn't have a great defense. Southern Alabama, Georgia Southern. Southern Alabama, the A team, Georgia Southern, we love the Nebraska team. So I got over against an A, which has a good defense. The over-under was 60. I do like it over because of Georgia Southern, and it goes 69, 38-31 Georgia Southern. The line on the game was only 3.5, so it was a really low line, but it was at Georgia Southern. So Georgia Southern gets the win, puts up the 31 on a good defense, South Alabama. So the Georgia Southerns, the Georgia States are just explosive over teams. So that's what you take away from it. Florida International, North Texas. North Texas is a very explosive team. Florida International is a Z team. Played a little bit good the last few weeks, not this week. North Texas laying 21.5. Over under is 62. You can't go over with the Z team, but you can lay the 21. I lay the 21. They win 52-14. They just kill them, but that's what you want. You want an over team against the Z team. They're going to light them up. Connecticut against them, you might get some points, but when you get the over team, you get the North Texas or Georgia Southern against the Z team, they're going to just light them up because it's what they do. They throw the ball, they're good, and then they can't stop them, so they just keep scoring. So 52-14 North Texas. So good game. Here you go, Troy Lou Lafayette again. Both under teams, so both don't score, have good defenses. Over under 43.5, easy under 49.5. A final 23-17 of 40. A lot of good unders that hit, except for the Washington State game. Everything else goes under, stays under. Troy, very, very good. They're not a great team. They're an under team. They don't score a lot, but they have the good defense. So here's the point. When you got under against under, you play it under if you got the right line. 43.5 is 50. They're never going to get 50 unless you get all the turnovers. So in a normal game, you're not going to get 5 fumbles in the first 5 possessions by a team. Here, but Washington State does hit you hard. Obviously, Stanford can't handle getting hit hard. They're not ready for football. So, with that said, where am I? Okay, so with that said, the game stays under. Texas State, Lou Monroe. Lou Monroe's a W. They were a Z, but they're getting a little bit better. So I'm noticing it. Play Texas State. Now, Texas State's a low-scoring team, good defense. Lou Monroe doesn't score that much, has a weak defense. So over under a 52, the score, Lou Monroe wins 31-30. So Lou Monroe scores a lot on a good defensive Texas State team. So you note that, and you kind of make Lou Monroe not a W anymore. When you play the Z team, Florida International or UMass, you want them to be a Z team. You want to bet against those teams, but you got to understand they're weak offensively and defensively. So in Lumon's case, or Connecticut, they're getting better. So they're not the bad teams that we think they are. So you got to be careful. Lou Monroe, puts up 31 on Texas State. Maybe he went to overtime. Got to check that. Was there a lot of turnovers? But that's very impressive for Lou Monroe to do that. Hey, Nick. Yeah, well, it's all we had the game, we had the games, right? We had the UCLA over and the Baylor over. We got fucked on the Oklahoma State over, but we had all the others. And then UCLA Seattle yesterday was beautiful. I couldn't find another pro team to lock with Seattle. So I went to UCLA because it was there, but it's amazing. I can't find two locks in the pros. I found that one, man. Seattle is a dog, and I'm in the car at swimming, and one of these idiots on BetMGM. Oh, I think it was Friday night, and he goes, "I like Arizona in the game." Now that Hopkins is back, doesn't understand trends at all. Doesn't understand that Seattle's a great road dog and that Arizona is a terrible home favorite. Doesn't get any of that, right? He just says, well, DeAndre Hopkins is back. They lost 19-9 the first time. So therefore they're going to win this time. And I'm like, are you just saying it because people listen to you and they bet what you say? Is that what you think? How stupid people are that if you say, I like Arizona with no reason, that people bet it because Vegas, everybody's on Seattle because the line dropped, that you need that? This is why I tell you don't listen to these morons, because you're going to be influenced by something that you don't want to be influenced in. And that's why they do these election results. And they say, well, Biden's favored by 20 points over Trump. So don't even bother to go vote. And he's really not. It's really tied, but they'll tell you that. And that's what they try. That's what they think they do. So that's what all these football shows. Okay, Jimmy, who do we need? We got all the money's on Seattle. Okay, guys, talk up Arizona and let these idiots who listen to you bet on Arizona because we need Arizona money. That's exactly what I think is happening. That's why I tell you, just ignore it, because you can't just forget it. It's just not going to help you. All right. Texas, Kansas State, B team. They're both Kansas State's an A team so they both have good defenses. So I was a little bit like, what do I do with this game? I end up betting it over 54. I thought was such a low number. Kansas State put up 49 on a good Oak State defense. Texas put up 49 on a weak Oklahoma defense. But I just thought that this game would be over 48, and I was going to lock it. I didn't lock it. I don't know why. They win 34-27, so it's a 61. Over under 51 goes 48. We had that covered at halftime, I think. But that's what you want. Even though they both had good defenses, they both had good offenses, and Texas, got up 21-0 on them pretty quickly. Georgia, who locked for me, luckily hit. I wasn't locked. Georgia, I remember you saying you're going to load up on it, and you're never worried about it. Once the game goes on, Georgia does their thing, and you know what Georgia's going to do, and that's the difference. In pros, I don't know any team, right? Buffalo loses the Jets. KC barely beats Tennessee. I don't know any team except for Seattle that's like Georgia. You knew they were going to win like they did. All right, there's no question they're going to put pressure on the quarterback. It's what they do. They're going to run it down their throat. It's what Georgia does for the last 2 years, and they beat Bama, and they beat all these teams. They beat Michigan. That's how they play. You can't stop them. They run it down your throat, and their defense is incredible. And there was no way Tennessee's defense was going to stop them, and there was no way Hooker was going to, like, this isn't Alabama. They were not going to put up 50 points. So we knew what to expect. We throw it out there, and boom. And that's exactly I had it in 2 teasers. Nick, who understands what's going on, makes a big bet and wins. So I'm happy for him. These companies that have partnerships with sports books are very dangerous for that reason you mentioned. A lot of influence on well, let's keep in mind what's happening in the economy, and I'll put on my economic hat just for a minute. So people are running, they're scared of the dollar, as they should be, as it's collapsing, as all the other currencies are collapsing. So they're scared. So what do? They want to get out of it. So they go to gambling as a way to make money. If they don't know stocks, if they don't know gold and silver is where they should put their money. So number one, you should put your paper in gold and silver. But a lot of people don't understand it, put their money in the stock market. Or a lot of people that understand stock market, I played football when I was a kid and in high school, they'll turn to betting on sports. And as a way to make money, taking their the need money and the want money, and they take their want money and they'll bet it on sports instead of buying gold with it. So that's the key. Really, what you're looking for is that, and that's what you got to be very careful of. So they do the ads to get the people who are betting on sports. Plus, it's not tax. You get the stocks, right? You got to pay capital gains tax. Sports, there's no way to monitor it. So you go bet $100 at the casino or online. And that's why I don't like the online stuff. You go to so if I go to like Caesars and in Vegas and I make my bet, I bet $1,000 on Georgia and it wins. There's no tracking it. There's no W-2 or 1099. It's just cash your ticket. They give you the money. You walk away because they don't know what you lost. And it's different. Only in a slot machine do they actually 1099 you because they can see you won that much money. But in football betting or that, there is no tax. So that's what drives people. Well, if I can make 500 and then they try it and they can't win, then they start looking for people like me, but they get these imposters and they don't know, well, this guy said to take them and they bet and then they lose and they don't know why they lost. They don't know. The guy sold them the pick to make the pick, but then he doesn't take explanation. He doesn't tell you the explanation to make the pick. And if the pick loses, he doesn't walk through it like I do. I explained the Washington State loss because Stanford fumbled 5 times. Was it a good pick? Yeah. Did we know they're going to fumble 5 times? No, but we walked through it and you understand we can explain it. And that's why we can't lock a 100-unit lock because we can't. Maybe there's there's injuries or 5 turnovers. So we got to be. This is what we think should happen. We think Georgia should beat Tennessee. We think UCLA goes over. We think Baylor or Oklahoma goes over. But, injuries happen. It's football. So you got to be careful. So it's pretty much that's what's going to happen. But for the football, now remember, Paul Hornung and Alex Karras in the 60s got suspended for betting, I think Paul Hornung bet on Green Bay because he said we're such a better team. So he bet on his own team. I don't understand why that's wrong. If you bet your team to lose and then you shave the points, that's one thing. But if you bet on your team, like Pete Rose, he bet on the Reds and they won. What's wrong with it? He's not managing for them to lose. He's keeping the game fair, and that's really what it is. But it's just the association of gambling with the sport that makes it look funny. But now, what the hell are they doing? Bet MGM and everything else. So it's just insane. Anyway, let's get back to the game. So Alabama, LSU. Alabama laying 13.5. I have Alabama laying 7. They beat Texas by 1. They beat A&M by 4. They lost to Tennessee. This ain't your mother's Alabama, so the 13 is way too high. I have no interest in that. Over under a 56.5. I go, well, LSU, I don't know. Tennessee put up 40 on them. And I said, okay, Alabama will put up 40. That shows you how good Bryce Young is. He puts up a grand 17 on them and got a miracle at the end to tie it at 24. But basically, if it doesn't go to overtime, it's 24. He only puts up 17 on a team that Tennessee puts 40 up. And when they play Georgia, you're going to see them get shut out, LSU. So LSU goes to overtime, wins 32-31. I win the over on a miracle. When it goes, so it's 21-17. There's no way. Okay, it's 38. There's a minute left in the game. I lost. LSU quarterback runs 70 yards. It's now 24-21. And I go, it's the only way I can win. It's got to go to overtime. Goes to overtime, 24 all, and then they both score in a 40-point game ends up with a 63. And finally, for once, you got the game over, not under. So I actually win with the overtime instead of losing with it. 56-50, 63-point game. Now there's a lot of like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? So Alabama, both teams are under defenses statistically, but as I said, Tennessee put up 40. You don't count this as like 31 by Alabama because it's overtime. And in overtime, they get the ball to 25. It's the stupidest overtime I've ever seen. Kick the fucking ball off. Let them run down. If they go down the field and score, they win. If they don't, then the other team's playing defense, holds them, and let them go down the field and win. Let's give them the ball at the 25-yard line. What is that? That's like baby overtime. Like, come on. You got to have the kickoff. You got to let them drive down and win. So I think it's the stupidest overtime I've ever seen. Anyway, so we see Alabama should have had their fourth loss. They get lucky in the Texas and the A&M to get the win. But it shows you their defense. Again, this is a running quarterback. They couldn't handle Hooker. They can't handle this guy, Daniels. And Daniels is not very good. He's a mystery. They couldn't handle Texas. And they couldn't handle A&M without a quarterback, which is really shocking. So I think Alabama just has running problems. And it shows you how good Bryce Young is. Everybody, they can get Bryce Young number one in the draft. Yeah, well, I'll take Rising and Van Dyke and Thompson Robinson and the Baylor quarterback. And my list goes on. Over Bryce Young. I think I take the Georgia quarterback over Bryce Young. All he does is win. So anyway, so that's what you got there. 13.5 was way too high. Death Valley on a Saturday night. LSU finally gets a Saturday night game and they get the win. And that's what TV's doing. They keep playing a noon game or 3:30 game. They want to play Saturday night. They get all liquored up. It's a very good environment Saturday night, and they keep making them play during the day. It's ridiculous. So Brian Kelly did what I thought he would, although they don't throw to Boutte enough. They don't throw enough, but their quarterback is just like a running quarterback. I don't know. I don't think Georgia's going to kill them when they play them. Houston SMU. What a beautiful lock. This is the last lock over, and then we locked Seattle yesterday. So both teams are over, both explosive, good quarterbacks, weak defenses, over under of 66. Never moves. How does this game never move? So 66, Houston SMU, explosive. We won it at halftime. It was 50-30. I had 87 points on an over 60 at halftime. Yeah, I look 50-37 at the half. It's already a W and a lock. I loved it. That's why you bet the overs, because once you get over, you're over. The unders are a little more nerve-wracking because you're like, don't score. But the overs just keep. You don't care who scores. In the final, 77-63 SMU, 140-point game. So you think I'm kidding when I say they're going to get 100. I'm not kidding. Here was a 140. So it was a beautiful game. Neither team has defense, and that's exactly what you're looking at. Good quarterbacks, weak defenses, that's an over. Weak quarterbacks, strong defenses, you're betting it under. But both teams have to play together. So you need under with an under, or you need over with an over. You can see how beautiful the lock is when overs played each other with good quarterbacks. You know they're just going to pick them apart. So if either of these teams play Oregon, USC, UCLA, it's an automatic over game. So that was a beautiful game. Vegas, San Diego State. Vegas quarterback got hurt, has been out. Brumfield. San Diego State doesn't score anyway, always with a good defense. Over under 48. Like the game under 14-10. San Diego State playing their normal defensive running game. But it's okay. You know what you're going to get from them. And so you just play the unders if it's somewhere over 45 and boom. So there's a lot of little these you think they're weak teams, but they got the strong defense. And that's what you look at. Now, San Diego State plays in a conference with a lot of weak offenses. So keep that in mind. So their defense is a little skewed. Arizona put up 38 on them, as I said. So if they were to play Oregon or UCLA, it wouldn't be pretty for San Diego State. It wouldn't be low scoring. BYU, Boise. BYU won the game. All right. I never looked at the score. I just wrote it down. Boise laying 7.5. Boise's kind of weak. They got a good defense. BYU's got a terrible defense now. And the quarterback's been injured. Maybe he got better. BYU did beat Baylor and then got killed by Oregon and hasn't been the same since. Goes into Boise, wins 31-28. So maybe BYU's back. So that's where the injuries happen. Quarterback gets injured, not on the list. Hurts. My friend who's a BYU guy tells me shoulder or his hand or something. He plays injured in the Notre Dame game, which they play pretty close. And then here they play Boise. And Boise does their thing and wins 31-28. So Boise's so it was a 59. The over-under was 55, but you had an over team BYU playing an under team Boise. And these are the ones I hate because I don't know which way to go on it. And here it ends up being a 59. So either way you teased it, you won on the total. BYU wins as the dog. Boise just isn't very good, so it's hard to play them to win against a decent team. Florida State, Miami. Florida State 7.5. Van Dyke does play, gets injured, hurts his shoulder in the second quarter, throwing the ball away in the end zone. He threw it and he immediately went to his shoulder. He gets knocked out, so they lose 45-3. I expected more from Miami as a home dog with Van Dyke, but I didn't realize he was that injured that he just tossed the ball down. It wasn't a 50-yard pass. It was just they're pressuring him in the end zone. He just throws it. It was nothing, and he was done. So look for Van Dyke to be out for a little bit more. Even if he plays, he's still injured. So give him credit for the courage, but we want him healthy. So all Florida State there, which is surprising. Again, they 45 Miami. Where was that against Wake? And then they did it against Clemson. And so Florida State, we don't know what we got with them. I mean, that's the problem. They're not consistent, but this was a good win for them. We'll keep our eyes open. Michigan, Rutgers. Michigan was having all sorts of trouble with Rutgers. I think they were losing 17-14 at half or something. And then next thing you know, Michigan 52, Rutgers 17. I had Michigan lane 19. Over under 45. Rutgers can't score, has a good defense. I know Michigan's going to run it down their throat. I'm not expecting Michigan to get 52, but I'm not expecting Rutgers to score. That's why I played Michigan, not the over or the under, because I knew Michigan would roll them, and they did. So 52-17. That's when you're analyzing, do I go over or under, what you're really looking at is what's the score going to be? I said, well, Michigan will win, 35-0, or maybe Rutgers gets 7. So I'm like, well, is it really going to be under 51? I said, well, I don't know, but I know Michigan's going to blow them out. So because of that, because they can't lose, they got Ohio State in a few weeks. So I know that they got to win, and I know they're running the ball. The quarterback's, so it's all run, and Rutgers, a good defense, but they can't handle Michigan. And I don't think Rutgers is going to score. So therefore, I go Michigan as opposed to over under. The under got killed, but the over won. But who's going to play this game over? If you're going to play it over, you play Michigan, which is what I did. South Carolina, Vandy, South Carolina E team. So they scored mid-20s, give up mid-20s. Radler sucks. I wonder if he was the quarterback or he's been replaced because they scored 38. Vandy's terrible. We're a Z team, but they're scoring a little bit more this year. 38-27, South Carolina. Again, this didn't make any sense. Over under a 48.5. You got an over team in Vandy with an over defense and an even team. So a 25 offense, 25 defense playing a 30 offense, 30 defense, and your over under is 48. See, that doesn't fit, right? Where what do you think South Carolina won't score? You know Vandy's going to score. South Carolina doesn't have a great defense. It's not Illinois or Iowa State. So where are you getting 48 from? This should have been probably in the 50s. It ends up being a 65-point game. Let's say Rattler got lucky, Vandy sucks on defense, but Vandy puts up 27 points. So I get a 65 here. I can't get a 65 in my Oak State game. Anyway, so 48 was was really a weird number. It doesn't agree with the team. So Michigan Rutgers 45 under made more sense because of the defense, but Michigan's not an under team, so you can't play it. Let's go back to the Troy Lou Lafayette game. Both teams are under teams with under offenses and strong defenses. Over under there was 43.5. The game was 23-17. So that's what makes sense to figure out the game is, well, they don't score a lot and they got great defenses. So where are they going to get the points? Michigan's got the great offense and they're going to run it down your throat. So you're not going to get the 6 turnovers like in the Stanford game. So you play it like that. So this made no sense. These teams were not under to go under 48.5. This was, should have been a strong overplay. Auburn, Mississippi State. Auburn 12.5, 50.5. Auburn, a terrible defense. Mississippi State, an under defense, unless they play. There was a few games they gave up 40. So again, this is where you got to go inside the numbers and just go to the schedule. So as I showed you on Scores and Odds, you can click the team and it'll give you who they played. So to give you here's who they played this year. And then you can go, Division II. It's Bowling Green. Let's get to the how did Mississippi State? They gave up 40 to LSU and, whoever else they gave up a lot of points to. And then you go, okay. So when they were in conference, they're going to give up more points. Auburn lights them up for 33. So the final's 39-33, a 72 and a 50-point over-under. This is sort of like my Baylor, my Texas-Kansas State bet. So, a 72. Where did Auburn get all their points? But if Mississippi State, supposedly that's good defense, how could Auburn get 33? Because Auburn doesn't have that strong offense. So again, Auburn, I think they fired their coach, probably switches quarterbacks, and the quarterback's probably a running one, and he runs, and they lose, but he gets more points. That's the part they never understand. They bring in the running quarterback, and he gets all these yards, but they don't win the game. Look at Fields. Chicago doesn't win, but now they score more. But it makes their defense worse, and so nobody looks at that. They just look at, look, he just ran for 20 yards. I'd rather have Brady throw for 20 yards than my quarterback run for 20 yards, unless it's crunch time. All right, James Madison, Louisville, lane 6. James Madison was an A team, and Louisville was a B team. So both teams have pretty good defenses, but pretty good offenses. So again, you don't know what to do. Here, over-under is 52. Louisville wins 34-10. So Louisville's on a roll now. They beat Wake with all the turnovers. And now they beat James Madison, who we know is a very good team, who's slipping, though. They were good. I think the quarterback, somebody said the quarterback was out or hurt, so they only scored 10. Without the quarterback, the other team scores more because you're turning it over more. You're not holding the ball, so your defense doesn't get the chance to rest. That's the most critical part about your offense is you're resting your defense. And if you score too fast, Dan Fouts, Dan Marino, you don't win. You don't win because you don't rest your defense. So that's what happened. So here, Louisville James Madison is a good team, as we saw. Clemson, Notre Dame. When is this idiot coach, Debo Samuel or Debo Sweeney or whatever, when is he going to change his quarterback? They lose to Notre Dame 35-14. They're funny because are they an A team or not? Not with this quarterback. Notre Dame is a B team. Notre Dame loses to Marshall. They lose to Stanford 15-14. Can somebody explain what Clemson's doing, dicking around with this oogly boogly who can't? He's terrible. I mean, he can't read a defense. He can't throw. He runs a little bit. Again, back to the running quarterback where they think that that's any good. I have no idea. It's never been any good, and it never will be any good because you got to use your receivers. So I know Notre Dame blocks a punt for a touchdown right away. Seriously? Now that goes back to the quarterback. Doesn't drive the team down the field, so they don't have to punt. Which Notre Dame team is this? Because the team that lost to Stanford 15-14 isn't the same team that beat Clemson 35-14. So the bet was calculated. I know this is the free play. Clemson, I thought, would change quarterbacks at some point. Once they weren't doing anything, why did they switch? He never switches quarterbacks. He stays with this guy who's terrible. He's clearly terrible. Somebody must be telling him to keep him in. I don't know. It makes no sense. The backup's 100 times better, as we've seen. The backup won the Syracuse game. Where was the backup today? Again, you just don't get it. So Notre Dame, is Notre Dame that good? No, but Notre Dame is very confusing. They beat North Carolina. They beat Clemson. They lose to Marshall, and they lose to Stanford. I could see if they lost to Oregon State or Washington State. They did lose to Washington State, but no, that was Wisconsin. But I don't know who they are. I mean, this is like the NFL. Which Notre Dame team, please stand up? Which Clemson team? Clemson's gone now. They don't have a chance in the playoffs. So I don't know what they're doing. Bad, terrible coaching. So my apologies on the Clemson pick. I wish I would have went to the Michigan pick or the Houston SMU pick, but shit happens. Wake Forest, North Carolina State, Wake Lane 3.5. I stay away because of NC State's defense, and I was right. They lose 30-21. I don't know how NC State scores 30 points unless there's some interceptions because of they don't really – their quarterback's out, Leary. So they're going to run and play defense, but they found 30 points. So I got to watch that highlight film to see what happened. But you got to be careful with these quarterbacks against the tough defenses. We saw the Washington game had trouble with Oregon State. We saw here Wake Hartman had trouble with this tough defense at NC State. And, of course, Hooker had trouble with Georgia's defense. So you don't want to fuck with the defenses. When you got a good defense, I don't want the quarterback against that. I want the quarterback. I want the Houston SMU going against weak defenses, lighten it up. That's the optimal way to play your good quarterbacks, your over teams against another over. You don't want to fuck with the NC States, the Iowas, the Iowa States. As soon as you see that, and that's why you got to grade the teams. It's immediately Iowa State's an under team. I don't care. I'm not playing Baylor over. I'm not playing Oklahoma over. We already played. I had Texas under 1. We had Oklahoma under 1. I think it was 24-21. They don't even get to 50 when you play Iowa State. So Oak State, I think, has them this way. Oh, we're going to go through that in a minute. All I know is I got a shitload of games, and this is my first sheet. Now, normally I've had like half of this sheet. I got this whole column plus one. I don't know. They're getting games out of the woodwork, but I got so many games this week. Oh, my God. I'll be busy on the airplane tomorrow. Anyway, so you don't want to fuck with that. So be careful. That's why you got to grade the teams, and it's by points, but you got to be knowledgeable like oh wait, they played a Division II team 70-0, don't count it. Or these really high scoring games will skew you. So if you beat the Citadel 70-0, you just ignore that. You either take it out of the equation or you just, go, okay, now that we're more and more into the schedule and more into the conference, you have fairly good numbers on these teams. And then just watch them. Then you got the injuries, so you got to be careful with the injuries. That changes the team, right? So now BYU has the injuries. Quarterback's hurt. Obviously, he's better. They beat BYU. Well, without him, they look like shit. So you got to be careful. You got to watch the injuries. Like Oak State now, without Sanders, is not the same. You can't rank them the same as with Sanders. That's all I'm saying. So Rising came back, so now they light it up. Rising the week before barely beat Washington State. Now give the kid credit, the backup. At least he won. The backup for Oak State, still throwing interceptions. So he's not prepared for some reason, which is strange. I like the coach at Oak State. Anyway, so Wake Forest, Hartman, still a great quarterback, but he ran into a strong defense, and defenses will beat offenses, a.k.a. Georgia. Colorado State, San Jose State. Again, San Jose State just isn't there. Colorado State's a Z team. San Jose State was laying 24.5. I thought was way too much. They're more of a B team, so they score like upper 20s, low 30s, and give up like in the 20s, low 20s. So Colorado State being a Z team has a weak defense. So you would have thought San Jose State isn't an explosive team, so therefore I didn't lay the 24. I avoided it. They only win by 12, 28-16. It's a 44. It actually, the over-under was 45. You maybe played it under because San Jose State is a strong defense without a really strong offense, and Colorado State got 16, but 28-16. San Jose State just doesn't look good. USC Cal, USC 21.5. Cal, who has a good defense and no offense, showed an offense. Over under was 60.5. I didn't know what to do with this game because this should have been another overplay with USC, but with Cal, pretty weak offense and a strong defense, I don't think they're going to score much. So I go USC minus 15 instead of over 54. Where Cal finds 35 points, I don't know. USC does the 41, I thought. So I figured USC like 41-10, and Cal finds 35 points. So I got to do what happened in that game. I don't know, but that's maybe the quarterback, Plummer, I think. He obviously lit up USC. USC's got a shitload of injuries, but they've been there for a while, so I don't know if these are new injuries or starters or anything. And last but not least, Fresno State, Hawaii. Hawaii is a terrible team, Z team, and Fresno State is not an E team anymore because Mr. Hayner came back, throws for 7 touchdowns. They win 55-13. The over-under jumped from 58 to 61. The line jumped from 24 to 27. So you knew something was up. Obviously, Hayner played well. So now we use that this week. Hayner's back. Now we bet Fresno State as an A team, strong offense. Actually, an even defense. So should be explosive games with Fresno State if they play the right, when they play San Diego State, what do? San Diego State can't score. Or if they play New Mexico. So you got to find Fresno State against the weaker teams. But that's a perfect example, playing a Hayner against the Z team, and they just crush them. That's why you look against Colorado. That's why you look I thought I had whoever played Colorado. Yeah, Oregon. So Oregon, Colorado is the same game, right? Oregon 49-10 against Z team Colorado. And here, Hawaii, Fresno State 55-13 against the Z team Hawaii. That's what you're expecting. You're expecting them to blow them out and no resistance back from the Z team to score. And that's what you got. You got 10 from Colorado, 13 from Hawaii. That's why I locked those games. That's why I bet those games. That's exactly what I'm I'm expecting when a good offense plays the Z team, I'm expecting them to score 50 and the Z team not to score. That's what happened in both those games. And that's what you're looking for. I think that was the biggest problem I had with the Clemson game was it was at Notre Dame. But at the time, Hayner wasn't playing. So when I'm making the pick, I don't know Hayner's playing until Saturday. That's the other part of the equation. I don't know Rising's playing until Saturday. So there's two good bets I could have that I got to wait because of the injuries. And then I got other games I'd say, okay, I'll play Clemson when I would have rather have played Fresno State or Oregon State or Utah against weaker competition. That's what I want to do. I want to play against the weak guy. I don't want to fuck with Notre Dame at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame isn't that strong, so I thought Clemson would do what they did to Wake and to North Carolina State and to Florida State. I didn't think they'd have much problem, and we're getting 2.5. So that is college. This week's even longer. I'm just going to go through the highlighted games. But now I am going to Europe tomorrow I got a 4:00 flight, so I guess I get to the airport at 1-ish. I don't know. I just it'll be 20 minutes through security, I think. I'm going to not the main terminal in Michigan. It's used to be Northwest, is now Delta. So if you're flying Delta, there's a bigger crowd because it's the hub, but I'm flying United out to Europe, and in the North terminal, it's not as big. Anyway, so that's what I'll do. So this will be it for the week. I'll be in Portugal. So if I can get away for a half hour, I might do a show like Friday where I'll just talk about the picks. For my guys, they'll get emails, but I'll just say picks posted, but just keep checking. You know my routine by now. So let's look at the pros yesterday. I think I already looked at them. Did I already look? Yeah, I already talked about them. Anyway, the lock was Seattle. Some of these over-unders make no sense. The Detroit Green Bay should have been easily over. They Green Bay threw 3 interceptions in the fucking end zone. That's 21 points. On a 24 is a 46. The over-under was 49. Again, you're going to count on Aaron Rodgers to throw 3 interceptions in the end zone? Really? I don't know, man. It's just that's what happens. Same thing, San Diego, Atlanta, 20-17. Again, bet against San Diego wins. Bet against Atlanta wins. I go over 49. That was our free play, and I can't figure out one more touchdown, we win. If you get to 44, but San Diego kicks 2 field goals instead of scoring touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Atlanta stopped scoring. So it's 14-10 at half. I go, this is a winner. 24, I don't need much more. But that's what happens. Oakland doesn't show up and loses to Jacksonville, Miami, Chicago. Chicago's the new high-scoring team and it's all Fields running. He can't pass, so he's just running. And again, Miami has a weak defense, so I knew this was an over. This actually went over where the other two should have went over, didn't. I'm just keep betting the Bears. Now, Bears got the Lions this week. I love it. They're going to kill them. Indy, New England. Ellinger's not ready yet. New England. Where was this against the Bears is what we're asking because that's what should have happened. Carolina, Cincy. Now, this was a surprise. Cincy blows them out 42-21. Carolina, strong road dog, 20-4. PJ Walker didn't look good. Cincinnati, is moving on from Chase. So Mixon ran a lot, which is what I thought, but he scored a lot of touchdowns, which I didn't think. Minnie does their thing. They were 7-1 as a road favorite and 8-0 as a play against road favorite. Now they're 8-1 and 9-0. They again win. They're like San Diego. They win every game close. The upset of the day, Jets, Buffalo. I called the Jets as the dog. I play them and then back off, but I knew Buffalo wasn't going to cover 10.5. No way. And the Jets are pretty good. They're not a Z team. They're a 6-2 team right now. They're not the 0-12 Jets. And people you have to adjust to what they are. And they're not a Z team. I got them as an even team with a good defense. And Josh Allen, those 2 interceptions right away look terrible. That's Josh Allen. That's what I try to warn you. That's the problem. He's not a good quarterback when you pressure him. Seattle, Arizona. We love Seattle. 9-2 is a road dog. Play against Arizona. 13-2 is a home favorite. Piece of cake. Seattle wins the game, getting 8, 31-21. That was the lock. And really nobody to lock it with. I guess I could have locked it with the Bears Miami over, but that was about it. I'm not locking the Jets against Buffalo. And then LA Tampa, I nail under 42. Both these teams are just terrible offensively right now. And somebody had locked LA on me here, saying, oh, LA is the team. Then I had to mute him because he was wrong. And again, I don't want that comment on here. Tampa Bay kind of had their back against the wall for a different reason. Not for them losing, but they were not in first place anymore. And they had to win, not being in first place. They still look pathetic. Their coaches are terrible. But they did get a 16-13 win, which I think will help them. But now we're not going to London now. We're going to Germany. What the fuck is that all about? So Sunday morning from Germany. Are these people insane? Are you going to go to, oh, maybe I'll see them in Portugal. Maybe they'll come there for a game. What the fuck? Are you insane? Why would you play? So T-Bay in Seattle, I would lock Seattle again, except for maybe I will. I got to see the spread. But what the fuck? You're dragging it to Germany now? Well, why? What's going to happen? All the Germans are now going to buy Tom Brady's shirt and Tampa Bay's going? That's shocking. So, again, they're fucking up the whole scenario, making it even harder because now they got to travel to Europe and travel back and play Sunday morning when they're used to playing. This game last night was 4 o'clock, Tampa, LA, which is a huge edge to LA because they got a better time zone. Because if they play at 1, it's really 10 in the morning for them. So it actually got a huge break for a 1 o'clock game. But, again, you're traveling from Tampa and going from Seattle. Going from Seattle to Germany? Are you kidding? I mean, because you got to go all the way across the ocean. So normally I go Detroit to like Washington to Germany to wherever. Tomorrow I go actually Detroit to Germany, then to Portugal. But to go Seattle, you're adding 4 hours to that flight, and Tampa's on the East Coast. That's a huge edge for Tampa there. So Seattle's going to be tired from this long flight. I don't know. It's a bullshit to have Seattle go all the way to Europe and then play Tampa. I can see with Seattle and the Rams, then it would be both teams would have the same distance. This is ridiculous. Kansas City and Tennessee, 12.5-point favorites. My line was Kansas City -7. It was pretty damn accurate. And they won 20-17. And there's Chris Collinsworth going, oh, look at Malik Willis. Let's see if he's the future. Let him do the 2-minute drill. Like, dude, the guy couldn't handle it in college. He's not going to handle it here. It's a wasted pick. I just love how these idiots want to, let's see if he's any good. He's not good. Really, if he was any good, he'd beat out Tannehill. He'd be Zappy. Zappy came right in and was good. Not hard. Why you still have Jones quarterback, I don't know. Anyway, tonight, Baltimore, 1.5, 47.5. Again, they do not have Bateman, and the tight end is doubtful, but maybe he'll play a little bit, but won't be effective. It's all Lamar Jackson. I got Kamara. I like New Orleans. New Orleans should be favored in the game. I got a very live dog with New Orleans tonight. Over under. New Orleans plays a vicious. I don't know what they are. They're an over team, but their defense looked pretty fucking good against Oakland last week. Although in Oakland's defense, well, they scored 20 on Jacksonville's defense. So let's give Oakland credit for putting up a 20 on Jacksonville after getting shut out by New Orleans. So again, see this. So what did I say yesterday? Who can you trust? Well, you couldn't trust Green Bay. They were a favorite, lost. San Diego barely wins, so you couldn't trust them. Oakland is a favorite, lost. Miami is a favorite, wins by a field goal. New England wins somehow. Cincinnati, yes, we can trust them. Minnesota wins by a field goal. Buffalo loses as a favorite. Arizona loses as a favorite. Tampa Bay in a push. Kansas City wins by 3 lane 12. So you want to play favorites in the NFL? Good fucking luck, because you're not going to win very many. The ironic part is I did play Carolina, and the only favorite that actually won was Cincinnati. All right, so let's look at college ahead. Now, I still have my lines because I want to analyze it, and then I'm going to put in the real lines. So we've got MAC on Tuesday, and Wednesday, the whole MAC plays. Now, the worst MAC team's Akron. They're probably a W to a Z team. Bowling Green's a W team, and Western Michigan's a W team. And Miami of Ohio and Western have weak offenses that don't get you 300 yards. So Central Michigan, their running back played for the first time in 5-6 weeks last week. They look pretty fucking good. So keep that. I think they beat Northern Illinois, who's a better team. So they got Buffalo this week. This should be an over. This running back's very good, but he's been out. So if he's playing, look at Central, as I pointed out in the beginning, was a very explosive team and looked good against Oak State. And then where have they been? They didn't have the running back and they couldn't replace him. So look for this game. This is over versus over. So real quickly, Miami of Ohio is a strong under. Toledo and Ball State. Ball State's an even team. Toledo is a over type of team. Kent's an over. Bowling Green is a weak team with an over defense. So Kent should finally light it up. Buffalo Central is an over. Northern Illinois is an over, but Western is a weak. So Northern Illinois should kill Western. Buffalo Central should be an over. Kent should kill Bowling Green because Bowling Green's kind of weak. Toledo and Ball State play the dot. Now Toledo's quarterback's out, I believe. And Miami of Ohio, you got Ohio as an over team, but Miami of Ohio is a very good team, and they're an under team. So you probably have to lean to the under. And then Eastern is pretty explosive against Akron, who's been scoring, probably an over. Now, that's without the lines. That's the next level that I want you at, is to understand. Let me look at it without line. Don't let the lines interfere with my thought process, or what do I do? So you go ahead and you pick it, and then you go. So then Tulsa, Memphis, over team versus over team. I'm guessing the over under 65. And this is why I make the bet today or tomorrow before it jumps, because I can see Tulsa, Memphis will go up 3 or 4 points from today or tomorrow till the end of the week. It'll move up. As people realize this is an over game, they go up. Now, the first thing you do is check the injuries. Then you go Tulsa, Memphis. Strong. We know Memphis always has a strong offense, and Tulsa does too. You can be misled by the Tulsa playing Tulane, who's an A team, and not scoring a lot. But how do they do against the over team? And that's the whole concept. We know they're going to struggle with Tulane, who's a good defense. But here with Memphis, this will be high scoring. Memphis played a high scoring game last week. This should be easily in the 60s. So if the line's 58, this how a lock happens. If the line's 68, all right, we play it small at 62. So the line determines how strong we like it. We assume this will be a 65-point game. That's what we assume. That's what we expecting. And we're expecting a line there. And that's why I played Texas, Kansas State over, because I was expecting a 60. And I was like, well, maybe I'll take the dog. Turned into a 54. You're giving me Texas, Kansas State, which I'm assuming will be in the 60s, is a 54. And in our land, it's Teaser World, it's a 48. You got a 48 with Texas, Kansas State. Thank you very much. And off you go. And had I known Oak State quarterback was out, I would never have locked that game. Although I do like Kansas in a over games most of the time. So that's what happens. And then it skews you because you would have maybe played Texas, Kansas State as a lock. I played it with TCU very strong, but you get to the point. I can lock a lot of games with this concept. That's a Thursday game. Georgia Southern, Lou Lafayette. You got over Georgia Southern against kind of under Lou Lafayette. I don't think Lou Lafayette's got this great defense, but keep that in mind. Okay, what else do we got? So then we go USC, Colorado. Now, this is what I was talking about. USC with this explosive offense against Colorado, a Z team. My line's 28 on the game. I'm assuming it's going to be in the 30s, but I'm trying to be hopeful with 28. USC will blow them out. They'll put up at least a 50 on them, and Colorado won't do anything. So that's what you're looking for, is a spread in the upper 20s, lower 30s, and then it's all out on USC. This is a Friday night game, so you can play the Memphis-Tulsa over with USC. If it's decent points, there you go. That's what you're looking for. Then we'll look at the spread, and we'll make up our decision. Then we got Fresno State with Haener back against Vegas. Vegas with the weak defense, and we got to see if Vegas' quarterback's playing. If he is, it's a great under. It's a great over. If it's not, we got Haener back. Look for Haener to blow him up. So, again, we got to see what the line is, and the quarterback on UNLV, I think he's out. I don't think he's playing. And that's why all of a sudden we were betting Vegas overs, because they were putting up 40 points a game. He gets hurt, and then all of a sudden their backup's not good, and then they're in trouble. So that gets us through Friday, and then we get into the Saturday games. It's just crazy. I mean, so they want you to bet Monday night game, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's all for betting. It's all bullshit. That's why you got to look at it, and then if they make sense, you pick one. I played one last week. I played the Duke against the weak BC. I played it with Bowling Green against a weak team, and I won that one. I lost to Washington over with Seattle, and I had to replace it with UCLA. So I did win the early week one, but again, I'm these MAC games are so inconsistent. It's very hard. Plus, it's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that USC Colorado game, or the Tulsa Memphis over, or the Iowa State Iowa under. That's what I'm looking for. Virginia Tech Duke. Duke should handle them. Pitt and Virginia. I have no idea. Oklahoma, West Virginia. Here you go. Over versus over. Please, lad, keep it under 65, and that's our first lock. Because the game's in West Virginia, they will score. They don't score outside, but they did put up the 43-40 on Baylor at home. They're not as strong as the Texas TCUs, Texas Techs, Baylor's, West Virginia, on offense. So they have a terrible defense. Oklahoma, we know, has no defense. Even West Virginia should light them up pretty good. So, again, this will be a 70-point game, and this will be based on the line they're giving me will give me if I lock the over, or I maybe not. If it's 75, I don't play it. But because West Virginia's good offensively, but not that good. Oklahoma, we know will score 45 here, and we know they have no defense, as Texas beat them 49-0. Purdue, Illinois. Here's Illinois off of a loss to Michigan State. Great under team. Purdue just got whitewashed by Iowa. Look for Illinois and an under here if it's in the mid-40s. We're looking for 45 and above, and it's a Purdue game, so we might get it. Again, that's what we're looking for. Rutgers, Michigan State. Who the fuck knows who Michigan State is? Oh, it's fourth down. We're supposed to go for it because that's in the rules. On fourth downs, go for it every fourth down. Even the tie Michigan, we won't take the tie. We want to go for it. Even though we have a 0% chance of making it, we'll look aggressive, right? Rutgers, we know they got a good – see, here where Michigan lit them up, but Michigan State doesn't have the same team as Michigan. So you got to kind of know, well, yeah, they gave up a lot to Michigan and Ohio State, but the rest – Michigan State's not an explosive team by any means. It's at Michigan State. Probably this should be a low-scoring game, so we'll see. Michigan State got lucky. They got the turnovers against Illinois to keep the score down. Those were good turnovers for unders because they happened at the right, as they were driving. If they happen like Stanford, which kept fumbling the ball at their own 20, leads there you fuck your under with that. Indiana, Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's got to be embarrassed after 21-7 over Northwestern. A little bit of win, not terribly. Excuse me. Haven't done that in a while. See, you put your honey and your cinnamon and your ginger in your tea and some lemon, and off goes the cold. Greatest ingredients, lemon and cinnamon. All right. Ohio State pissed off that they lost, or they won 21-7. After watching the Georgia game, Ohio State's got to be shitting their pants going, how the hell are we going to beat them? They remind me of the 84 Bears, the Georgia team. You couldn't even get a first down on them, right? The only way you beat them was the quick Marino passes, and I had them. I was at work in a pool, and you rated the teams 1 to 14, 1 being the least, 14, you hit it, you got 14 points. And the Bears are playing Miami and Marino Monday night. It ruined their perfect season. And who picks Miami? Teaserking. Why? Because I know you can't blitz Marino because he's too quick. Miami wins the game. And I remember the president of the company, that's when I was working here at Canadian Club. And the president of the company is like, how the fuck did you do that? I go, I know my football. What can I say? I mean, that's what I do. You're in good hands with Professor. So look for Ohio State to just light it up. They got Michigan coming up in a couple of weeks. I think the 19th. I'll be back for that game. So Indiana, the weak offense and a terrible defense. Ohio State will score at least 55 in this game. I think they'll be laying. I got them 24, and I'm wishing it'll probably be upper 30s again. Maybe not, because Indiana's a little bit better, but look what Penn State did to Indiana. This isn't going to be a pretty spread. It'll probably be maybe 35 over under. I mean, they'll hit 60 on this easy. So this is one of those where you just got to be careful. And I think you take Ohio. I think you take Ohio State, and if it's less than 35, you play them. And if the over-under's in the 60s, you go over. The problem will be, well, how much will Indiana give you? So that's why it might be tough to get over if it's in the 60s, because you don't have over against over. And Ohio State's got a pretty good defense. But this is what restricts you. Oklahoma is an over. They score 40 and give up 30, right? That's what you want in an over. Well, you don't have it here. First of all, Ohio State only gives up 15 a game. And Indiana doesn't score the 30. They give it up. So it's hard to play this game over. You don't have the Oklahoma, West Virginia 40-point teams giving up 30 points. That's the beautiful. That's why they get locked. Here it's hard because Ohio State's got a good defense. Indiana might not score for you. So that's why I took like Michigan Rutgers. I didn't think Rutgers would score. So I took Michigan, and I'm only laying 19. So I'm praying it's 25, but I'm sure it'll be 35 at least. Kentucky, Vandy. Kentucky, a good under. Vandy is not playing Hawaii in Towson State or whatever. So Vandy's in a world of hurt. Look for this game to be under. If it's 45, I'll put as. If it's over that, I'm going under. Missouri, Tennessee. How is Tennessee going to be? They just got the shit beat out of them. They're at home. Missouri has a very good defense, and we all know they played that fucking Georgia team 26-22, where Georgia needed 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to get the win. But after that win, I knew Georgia's going to go undefeated. You always had that one game. But in this case, can Missouri stop Tennessee? And how pissed is Tennessee going to be after this loss? I mean, this guy Hooker's going to love it. He's going to go back to pass and have time to pass, unless Missouri says, you know what, we got a blitz like Georgia did to beat them, and they could do it. They have a very strong defense. Tennessee's an A team, so they have a good defense too. They actually were good holding Georgia to 27. They basically shut them out in the second half. So I look at this game almost under, depending on what they do to this line. I got Tennessee minus 24, Tennessee minus 24. If the over-under is in the 60s, it's an under, actually. We'll see. This guy's going to freak out having time, though. So I don't know if he's going to light up Missouri. This isn't the game to get all like, oh, Tennessee they're mad because they lost. This is Dan Fouts. This is Dan Marino. They are not playing an over defense, so be careful here. They are playing a very strong defense with Missouri. So I don't know that you're going to see Tennessee put up a 50. Alabama's defense is not as good as Missouri's, and certainly not as good as Georgia's, and certainly not anywhere near Iowa State's. So you've got to understand and be careful with that. So Tennessee, they should win the game, but this is going to be a good game. LSU, Arkansas, LSU. I mean, what do you? They got to be so flat. I mean, you just beat Alabama. Tennessee got lucky. They played Tennessee Martin after Alabama and put up a 70. And then they got flat for Georgia. LSU, you beat Alabama. You can't afford to lose. And here comes Arkansas. If Jefferson's playing, I got to love Arkansas getting double digit. Now LSU. I got LSU minus 10. I'll take Arkansas in 16 in that. Over under, Arkansas with a weak defense, probably an over game. They're not going to stop Jefferson, LSU. So LSU's minds, they got to go to Arkansas. They'll be lucky to win the game. Notre Dame and the Navy. Notre Dame plays Navy every fucking year, and they know how to defend them. Navy, with losing Latavi, the quarterback, really hurts them here. Makes them a little more one-dimensional. Now, Notre Dame just beat Clemson. I'll say they're going to block a punt because they blocked the punt against Syracuse. They seem to be playing well now, right? Notre Dame so they lose to Stanford, beat Syracuse, blocking a bunch of punts, getting interceptions, not with offense. They blocked another punt against Clemson, but they did obviously have some offense. Depends what the line is. It's hard. Notre Dame is they have a good defense. And Navy really doesn't have it. So this could be a Notre Dame play depending on the point spread. If it's inside of 20, you can get a 19. You probably want to play Notre Dame here because Navy doesn't have their quarterback who was very successful throwing it. Otherwise, I'd like it. But Navy played a 20-10 game with Cincinnati. So they only got 10 points there. So maybe this is an under game because Navy's not going to score that much. SMU in South Florida, SMU 21 is my spread. Overs against a weak South Florida with an over. Here we take SMU and lay the points. They are going to kill them. They're playing a weak defense. So you can see the difference. Tennessee's playing a real strong Missouri. We're here. SMU's got a weak defense in South Florida. They're going to light them up. I don't know if they get to the 80 points that they did against Houston, but Houston's got a hell of a lot better defense than South Florida does. And look for SMU. I don't know if I'd play the game over. I don't know if South Florida is going to be able to score, but SMU is going to probably be close to 70 again. Here we go. Oregon, Washington, our Pac-10 over game. Beautiful, just what we want. Neither team has a defense. Both teams light it up. I would venture to guess this will be an 85 to 90 point game. I'm praying it's 65. It's probably 70, but we'll see. So you can't look at the Colorado game and Oregon, 49 to 10, like, oh, their defense is bad. No, they're playing Colorado. You've got to understand that concept. Here they're playing Washington, this game's going to be, like I said, this is an easy 80. So if they give me a 62 today, I call up Nick and I go, it's a lock. Let's bet it. Get it in now before it goes up 5 points. And then pray nobody's injured, which I saw Penix play. He wasn't injured. And Oregon, Nix has not been injured. So both quarterbacks should be fine. That's the key. You hope defensive players are injured because we want more scoring. So that's when you look at the injury list and oh, this defensive lineman's out. Oh, that's a shame. We're bending over. So this is our first definitely lock over with the Oklahoma West Virginia. This is better than Oklahoma West Virginia. So let's look at the line. So I'm hoping, my guess is it'll be 69-70, which is fine. That's still a strong over. Cal and Oregon State, I got unders against unders. This is a very good under game. Oregon State, very strong defense. Cal, they scored a little on USC, but they have a pretty good defense normally. I look for this to be under if it's a 50. So if it's 50-51, we're going to go under in the game. Arizona, UCLA, another lock over. Arizona scores a lot, has no defense. UCLA scores a ton, has a decent defense, not against good teams. This is another 85-point game. Boom, boom, boom. I'm loving this lineup this week. See, 2 weeks ago, we didn't have a good lineup. We had mixes. We had teams not playing. Here, I'm drooling with Oregon, Washington, and I got Arizona and UCLA. Jesus, thank you, God. Stanford, Utah, and I don't even look at the line. I don't care what the line is. It's going to be 85 points. That's what I'm looking at. I don't want to even. I don't care what UCLA. I got them laying 14. I don't even care. It's keep it under 70, and we're going over with the game. Stanford, Utah. Stanford, I don't know. They suck. Utah, as long as Rising plays, I think Utah wins this easy at home. Here's where I can't go over because Stanford doesn't score enough for me, but they have a weak defense. So Rising should be able to load up with at least 40 points. Stanford wants to fumble every time. So, this is what's confusing. They beat Notre Dame 15-14. That's one of the reasons I locked the Washington State game. Washington State plays all these teams low scoring. Stanford beat Notre Dame 15-14. How the hell did that happen? And now, and then they turn it over 5 times in the first half, and then there goes Washington. So it is very this is the erotic Stanford, but Utah, we know what we're getting. If Rising's playing, they'll kill them. Colts fired their coach and hired Jeff Saturday. Really? I don't know how that can be. I'm talking about the flight. Talking about the flight because they have to go from don't they have to go to all the way to the East Coast and then go through like New York, where the like I'm in Detroit, it's like 6-7 hours to there. So, well, maybe because Tampa has to go all the way up to New York, which is probably a 3-hour. Yeah, but it's on the East Coast. So, okay, good point, profit margin. So they fired well, why did they hire him in the first place? This is the problem. But Philadelphia let him go. Is this the Philadelphia coach or no, this is Boomer Esiason and Frank Wright. Like, oh, yeah, he's good. This is the problem. He should have been playing Ellinger last year, got him used to it, and he didn't teach Ellinger. Ellinger looks terrible. He's a much better quarterback. Now, part of the problem is with Ellinger, he's a good quarterback, but you didn't get him ready. And that I blame on the coach. If the coach, see, this is the problem when you bring in a coach because he's he's a good for the quarterback. No, you need a head coach who's good for the team. You hire an offensive coordinator or a quarterback coach to handle the quarterbacks. That's not what they did here. So, it's just stupid they hire the coach. It's like the Lions. They'll fire their guy. And why did you hire him in the first place? Anyway, so where are we? James Madison and Old D. Well, we got to see what's going on with James Madison's quarterback. Old D had one game against Coastal Carolina. They found the running back, but he's disappeared. So this is probably an under game. Lou Monroe, Georgia State. Lou Monroe is a W team at getting better. I'm going to call them more of an E team with a weak defense. Georgia State, we know, is strong. With the right line, I like Georgia State here, and probably the over. If they're giving us good numbers, this is the hidden game, right? Because the hidden game, this isn't everybody's on Alabama or Georgia or USC, but who's on Georgia State? Lou Monroe. This is where we make a lot of money. Georgia State probably is a good over. They'll score a lot of points, but Lou Monroe looks like they can score. So this should be a very high-scoring game. But are they going to make it a 65 or are they going to make it a 58? This will determine that. Rice in Western Kentucky. Rice is an over game, and Western Kentucky really isn't an over. They have a decent defense for some reason, and they're not playing it over. So if they make this a 72, again, you don't play it. Somewhere in the 50s, this is an over. If it's in the 60s, Western Kentucky's not playing that type of game right now. UMass, Arkansas State. Love Arkansas State here. Again, you got the over team against the Z team. They'll blow out UMass 50-0. Houston, Temple. Houston, we just saw give up, playing a 150-point game with SMU. And Temple, they scored a ton on South Florida, but they're not. The defense isn't going to help them here. And they don't normally score a lot. So I think Houston blows them out. But if Temple found an offense, then this is, again, another over. So you just have to research. Is Temple finding an offense or are they just one-dimensional? Louisville, Clemson. Well, there's nothing you can do here. I like the dog here. Just if Clemson keeps with this quarterback, this coach should be fired. It's pretty obvious to everybody that Ugla Buglia sucks. Louisville's playing very good. They beat Wake, and they killed Wake. They're getting turnovers. They play a very strong defense. This could be another under game because Clemson's supposed to have a good defense, although I don't know, where it was against Notre Dame. But Louisville's definitely a real team. So this is probably a live dog or a live under. Miami and Georgia Tech, two bad teams. Miami, figure Van Dyke won't play. Georgia Tech's just weak with a weak defense. So this would have been a game Van Dyke would have lit up Georgia Tech, but without him, this is a game you just stay away from. Boston College, NC State. Boston College is weak. NC State is a B, lost their quarterback, scored some points last week, so we got to look into that. Is this new quarterback better? Iowa State, Oak State. Here's my play. Iowa State, we know they're an under team. Oak State, if they don't have Spencer Sanders, which hopefully will get he's in his shoulders in a sling. How long are you going to be out? Where's Bobby when we need him? How long are you out with your shoulder in a sling? And that's really the question. Bobby, when you get this, email me, tell me how long the injury takes. Oak State, what? They're not going to score on Iowa. They're going to get shut out if they go with this backup quarterback. If they have Spencer Sanders, I would still play this game under because they played Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas under. This game will be an under no matter what. I'm hoping for a 50-point because it's Oak State. This is an under game. Wisconsin, Iowa. Please give me 42. It's a lock under. This is under versus under. Nebraska, Michigan. Michigan will kill them. Nebraska's weak with no defense. Michigan will have a field day. And you can't play over or under because you don't know what you're going to get from Nebraska. Michigan's going to light it up, win by at least 30. So this line will probably be 17. I got it 21. It's all Michigan. Minnesota, Northwestern. Now, Northwestern played a good first quarter against Ohio State. Actually, they played a decent game. It was a lot of wind, though, so it's not all them. Minnesota is a good team with a good defense. I think this game's an under just because Northwestern doesn't generate a lot. If the spread's too low, you take Minnesota, but that's it. Maryland, Penn State. Penn State looks like they're back. Maryland, I don't know. Maybe it's an over or it's a Penn State. Arizona State, Washington. Here you got a mix. You don't want to fuck with Washington State's defense, as opposed to Arizona, UCLA, both score 40 points. This is over. Here you got Washington State with a strong defense against Arizona State. It was a good over team. Here's what I was getting 2 weeks ago. I couldn't, my hands are tied because I can't play Washington State under with this Arizona State. And Washington State should score at Arizona State. So it really locks your hands. It depends on what the number is. Maybe you play it under. Maybe you take the dog. You know, it's a hard one. Washington State, if you get them under 3, is so it's 8 down to 3 to 2. I like Washington State to win with the defense. Alabama and Ole Miss, they're both. I have them statistically as A teams, but Mississippi, I don't know if they got beaten by Tennessee or LSU. One of them killed them. Alabama, as we see, this should have been their 4th loss. They should have lost to Texas and A&M, and they lost to Tennessee, and now they've lost to LSU. It's at Ole Miss. I don't know how Alabama gets better all of a sudden. They're just not a very good team. I got them laying 14. I don't think it'll probably be about that because of all the Alabama bettors who will bet Alabama if they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're not that strong. This is A against A, which is normally tease the dog, or depending on this, Mississippi's a running team. They're fucked here because the way you beat them is with the LSU quarterback scrambling or the Tennessee quarterback throwing on the weak defense. Mississippi State runs the ball. They don't pass it. So therefore, they're going to be in trouble here. Alabama should take them. God, I still got a whole second page. Oh, New Mexico Air Force. Probably a good under here. New Mexico, as I said, strong under. They don't score a lot. Strong defense. Air Force, strong defense. This should be a real tough game. This should be an under. If we get a 45, we'll play it. UCF, Tulane. Tulane's an A team. UCF is an A team. This is a tease the dog or an under. UCF's pretty good. So yeah, this is A against A. It's even. Tease the dog. So I like the dog here. Charlotte, Middle Tennessee. Charlotte, I don't know. Reynolds lights it up. No defense. They give up 40 points a game. Middle Tennessee's an over. This is over against over with Reynolds as long as he's playing. This should be a good over bet. App State and Marshall. App State, more of an over team. Marshall, as we see, is an under team. I mean, they played Old Dominion 12-0. They maybe there was some win there. It's in Virginia. And then we've got App State who could score. So this is, depending on who's the favorite, this is probably a live dog. So if Marshall's 3, 4, 5-point favorite at home, App State and 11 will probably be okay. If App State's favorite, we definitely like Marshall. Marshall brings the better defense, but App State can score. So I don't know. This is probably take the dog. North Texas, UAB. North Texas put up the 51. Last week we talked about very strong over team. UAB is a B team. They're a very good team, good defense. UTSA beat them in double overtime or something, so it really wasn't that high of a scoring game. I think North Texas is a live dog in this game based on what UTSA did. I don't think UAB is going to shut down North Texas with this offense. And I think if it's close, I like the dog in the game. Army, Troy. Troy is a very strong defensive team and not much offense. Army is playing over, but it's deceptive because of who they played. UTSA, Coastal Carolina, and Wake Forest tends to make you an over team, but they have been scoring. I do think here Army is a live dog if you can get more than 10. I have Troy by 3. Maybe there'll be a little bit more. Army over, under, probably an under because Troy's defense, as long as they played an Army, Navy, Air Force they'll know what to expect. If they haven't, they don't know what to expect. Then look for Army as a live dog there. UTSA, LTech, this is another over versus over. Jump on the over. Let's pray it's in the 60s. South Car, Florida. South Car is playing a little bit better. Florida is an over team. I don't know where they're getting their points, but they put up 40-something on A&M. Again, I like this game over, depending on the line. I wouldn't touch South Carolina as a dog, and I don't think I can trust Florida as a favorite, so I think you go over here. Texas State, South Alabama. South Alabama is an A team. Texas State's an under team. You can't tease the dog here. You probably play this game under if it's appropriate, like 50 or so. Georgia and Mississippi State. Here we go. Georgia will not be flat. They're just going to be focused because Mississippi State's fairly good. But we saw Mississippi State against Alabama. We made the mistake of playing them thinking they were going to score in Alabama, and they got killed, and they didn't score. I don't remember the score, but they got shut out. They're going to get shut out again because Georgia, this is a passing team. We know what Georgia's going to do. Play this game under. I got under 10. I wonder what. Georgia gives up under 10 points a game. That's what I'm saying. So we know Georgia. Georgia wins the game. If the line's not too high, we take Georgia. We more than less are going to play this game under. Assuming it'll be in the 50s, we'll go under 61, 62. And there's your Georgia under again. K-State and Baylor. Baylor -7. Depending on the spread and the over-under, I think – I'm not sure how much – if this is in the 50s, it's an over. It's not a 65 over. Kansas State, pretty good. They run. They play the defense. Baylor, this is a good dog play. Baylor, I've got as a 7-point favorite. I don't know. I'm going to guess 54-58 is the over. Then I like it over. If I can get it over, if I can tease it down in the 49-50 range, it's definitely an over. They'll definitely score. Kansas, Texas Tech, ding, 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 another over. Keep it under 70. It's another lock over. Kansas scores. Their defense isn't that good. Texas Tech at home will score. This will be another 85, 90-point game. God, I love this week. It's just so many of these games. But this is why we bet it today. If I catch this over at 62, I'm not waiting till Friday and playing it at 67. I already know it's an over. See, this is where we're ahead of the curve. We're the joker here. We know this is an over. I don't need to study it. I need to look at the injuries. And this is where, please stop fucking me, where you don't report an injury. Now, I know Kansas' quarterback's playing. Texas Tech has a few different quarterbacks. They light up West Virginia. They have trouble last week against somebody, which I'm too tired to look at. But I think it was TCU, and they played them pretty well. So you're hoping they're going with averages, and this will be a 60-point, and then it's a lock over. Because we know Kansas is gonna. This is an 80-point game for Kansas. As long as Texas Tech's quarterback's healthy. So we just need to make sure they'll be fine. And they have like two different quarterbacks, and they both played last week. So I can't imagine both are out when they both finally got back in. So they've been having quarterback issues, but at home they score a lot more. Wyoming, Colorado State. Now here's where we have the Z team, Colorado State, but we don't have the explosive team, and Wyoming is not that explosive. So it's at Colorado State. So if it could be a 10-point, I've been seeing these low points. So if it's 10, we can go 4 all day. We can lay the 4 and off we go. So let's take a look at that, and we will see. Maybe taking Wyoming against the Z team. The Florida Atlantic, Florida International. Florida Atlantic was strong and then went weak. Florida International is a Z team, but started to score a little bit. This is, I guess, a rivalry, if you can have a rivalry with Florida Atlantic and Florida International. We'll see what the spread is. I'm curious. I don't know. This is a tough one. I don't know. My guess is Florida Atlantic laying 10 and 50. So we'll see. We'll have to study that once we get the line. North Carolina, Wake Forest, boom, another over, another lock, another 80-point game. Wake will light up North Carolina, who does not have a great defense, and North Carolina is going to light up Wake, who does not have a great defense. You got May against Hartman, two superstar quarterbacks. Look for this game in the 80s. A&M and Auburn, we got yeah, I don't know. A&M gave up a bunch to Florida. Auburn has no offense, but yet scored 30 last week. Weak defense for Auburn, which is unusual. Normally they have a good defense. I think A&M's got a strong defense, but I don't think so. Not after Florida lights them up for 40. So this is probably a take the dog and probably go over depending on what the numbers are. TCU, Texas, ding, ding, ding. We got another over. Oh, my God. This is just between the Big 12 and the Pac-10. It's like over city here. Texas, we might have a live dog. I think Texas will be favored because they're a favorite at Kansas State. I love TCU. If they're the dog, more than I like the over. So my spread's Texas -7, probably a 60. We'll see if I get those numbers. It's a TCU and 13. And if you notice, I've been playing TCU, not the over in their games, because they have a pretty good defense, but they win. They're a very strong team, and they will win the game with their offense at the end. So again, I like the over in the game, but if you give me enough with TCU, they're not going to get blown out. They're too strong offensively. They come back every week, and they keep winning. So TCU is the better team in this game. So if I can get them +7, I get +13. It's gold. Coastal Carolina, Southern Miss, same thing. Coastal Carolina should light up Southern Miss. Probably another high-scoring game. Florida State, Syracuse, two A teams, but you got to watch the Syracuse quarterback. Schrader, I don't think played. Got hurt in the Notre Dame game. Now here comes this week. I don't know how good's Florida State. Now they got to go to Syracuse. Can they play Miami, a rival, beat them, and then not be flat at Syracuse? So if Syracuse's quarterback plays, I like the dog in the game. If he doesn't play, then I guess Florida State or the under. Syracuse could go under without the quarterback because they'll play more ball control and defense. And they got a very good defense. Boise, Nevada. Nevada's really weak. Boise doesn't score. They just lost to BYU. This is more bet against Nevada, I think, but it's hard to trust Boise. Maybe it's an under. I don't know. This is a very hard one. San Jose State, San Diego State. There you go. This is the under I was talking about. I said wait till they play them. San Jose State does not score. They put up 24 on Nevada or 28. I mean, Jesus. San Diego State, we know, doesn't score. We know both have good defenses. This is a very good under game. And last but not least, Utah State, Hawaii. Utah State's a W. They did score last week. Hawaii is a Z, so we know we don't know if it'll be a high-scoring game because if Hawaii doesn't have a quarterback to score, Utah State should light them up. If the spreads, we can get under 7. It's a very good Utah State game. So that is college. So many good overs. Oh, I'm just salivating, waiting to get the numbers. Bobby, I have a question for you, Bobby. You just missed all the college. And I did pros last week. I'm doing everything today because I won't be on. Maybe I'll be on Friday. Tell me about Spencer Sanders' shoulder injury. How long is he out? If his arm's in a sling and he can't go, and he got hurt against Kansas State and he didn't even dress. He tried to play, but he couldn't. Is this like a month off, or do you think he can play this week? I guess his shoulder, and it was in a sling. So when you go to a sling, you got problems. My guess is he won't be back this week. But your thought on this, Dr. Bonilla? All right, let's look at the pros for next week. Atlanta, Carolina. I needed that. Atlanta 2.5, 42.5. I have to go to last week's games to get the grades. So I haven't updated my stats yet because of tonight's game, but I think I'm going to update my stats and just assume the Monday night game, the stats won't change because I won't be on tomorrow and I'm going to be traveling. So I want to get all that shit done today. I'm more worried about that than packing, but I'm pretty much packed. I got to go swimming and I'm going to pack my suit. So Atlanta is what are you? I think I got him as an E team, with an over defense. Carolina, they're an E team with an over. So both defenses suck, and both offenses score in like the mid-20s. So this is like 25 playing 27. So they score 25, give up 27. Atlanta, again, now my justification is nobody's good enough to win, and on the road on a Thursday night. So I probably let Carolina. I don't know who quarterback. We'll have to check for injuries, but this is more of a Carolina. Plus, I got to check the Atlanta, Carolina. So I'm not really prepared to get into the depth like college. And you can see how college is versus pro. College, I just gave you 20 picks. Pros, I'll be lucky to give you 2 because it's just it's hard to explain the difference. Nobody is good in like college. You got UCLA, we got the SMU overs and the UCLA overs. I mean, it's right there. It's simple. I can't do that. I don't have over team. I got one team that scores 30. I got one team that gives up 30. I have no Z teams to bet against. I have very few A teams. I got a bunch of crap in the NFL. It's a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of under teams. There's a few over, and then you never know how they actually play. Dallas and Chicago, they don't score 20 points in the game. Plays 49-20, 49-29. Where's that coming from? And Green Bay, Detroit, they give up 30 points. Detroit, it's 15-9. This you don't see that in college, unless there's an injury. You got what? Houston SMU is 140 points, and we saw it coming, and we locked it, and it got there at halftime. But you don't see that in the pro. This is where I'm struggling, where I'm almost better off instead of fucking with over-unders playing teams. I did very good playing teams. If I would have just stuck with the team and not the over-under, I think I won every game but the Carolina game. So if I look at Atlanta and Carolina, little trend on Carolina, I think I like the home dog Thursday night. Seattle, Tampa, we know who I like there. All Seattle. 9-2 road dog. Play against Tampa as a road favorite, 5-0. I got to change that because this is a road game in Germany now. They're going to fucking Germany. When are they going to Russia to play a game? Or China? When are they going to China to play a game? Unbelievable. Or go to the moon or Mars. Let's go to Mars to play the game. We'll get TV contract there. So I like the dog. I like Seattle. Tampa can't score. Seattle's lighting it up. Seattle's much better team here. Why is Tampa favored? And it's not in Tampa. It's in Germany. So now why is Tampa favored? I have no idea. Buffalo 7.5, 47.5 against Minnesota. Here's an interesting trend for you. Minnesota play 21-4. Minnesota play against 21-4. Play a teaser in the Minnesota game. You can't go wrong. I think this game stays close like the Green Bay game. I like Minnie as the dog. We can't trust Josh Allen, although Buffalo does play a little bit better at home, but Minnesota's used to if it gets cold and the climate. So I think Minnesota is pretty even in this game. Don't forget they're 7-1, and yes, it's Kirk Cousins, but they got the balance of Cook, Jefferson, and Thielen. Look for the game to be close. Detroit, Chicago, the new Chicago with running Joe Fields or whatever his name is. Fields throws for 100 yards a game and runs for 200. So We're playing single wing Army Navy 1948 football. He gets 200 yards. They light up Miami. I think they're going to kill Detroit. I don't think Detroit has a clue. Detroit still has a terrible defense. The Bears' defense is getting worse because they traded their player, but I don't know. Detroit might score. This could be the over I was looking for against Green Bay. Chicago, I love over now because they just score and they have no defense. So Detroit, the question is on the road. They haven't won in 5 years on the road. Chicago's laying 3. Over under 48. Detroit 10-2 is a play against road dog. The Bears 11-1 at home in the last 12. So in the last year and a half, they played at home. They're 11-1. Favored or dog. And Detroit 10-2 against as a road dog. So this is the Bears with Fields running all over the place, and then they'll get pressure on Detroit, and then they'll throw the interception. Detroit will get the late drives to backdoor everybody. So they're probably good in a teaser with 9, but this is a teaser trend. 10-2 play against road dog isn't a teaser. So if you you get the Bears in 3, that'll win. But Detroit might, stay within 9. Denver, Tennessee. Tennessee, if they got Willis again, all it is Henry. KC showed you how to play him. Denver, strong defense. Tennessee, strong defense. Running Henry. I like the game under again. If I have to take, I would probably take Denver in 8 because no team should be favored in the NFL. KC, 10 over Jacksonville, 49.5. Jacksonville, 11-1. Play against as a road dog. Is this a Kansas City thing? Kansas City did get the win. Jacksonville's going to run. Etton, he thinks he's back in the ACC, playing Wake Forest in North Carolina. Again, I don't know how you play KC and lay 4 to anybody. Jacksonville's, but they have no quarterback. They're running and playing defense, which will bother them a little bit. I don't know. This is a real tough one. The 10. I don't know. You lean to KC -4 because they're the better team, but I don't know. The way they looked yesterday, they look pathetic. Miami 4, 48 against Cleveland. This is definitely an over. Miami scores with their receivers. Cleveland scores with Chubb and no defense. This is clearly an over. If I have to take a team, I'm going to take Miami because Cleveland 7-1 as a road dog, 7-1 play against as a road dog, 21-4 play against, and Miami's 11-2 at home. So I like Miami to win at home, but it could be a close game because Cleveland, the 21-4 play against Cleveland. So I got to take Miami in the points. All right. Houston and the Giants. The Giants laying 7. The Giants have been very good in teasers this year, covering. Houston's like an enigma. Over under a 38. I like the Giants -1 at home. They're not they're not very strong. Houston, I just think is so weak. This is more going against Houston. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston wins as the dog. Again, you can see the difficulties between pro and college. College, I listed 25 strong bets we're going to make. And in pros, I'm still like, maybe we'll take the Giants and maybe Houston. Can we trust the Giants? We can't trust any team to win or as dogs. I can't trust KC to lay the 4 and win, and I can't trust Jacksonville in 16. What the fuck? I mean, in college, it was all over the place. So this is what you're running into in the pro. This is why the pros are so difficult. I find Seattle all over. I mean, that's it. I found one. Like last week, I found Seattle. And that was my only lock because that was the only one that I could say, yep, they're a strong dog. I can trust them, just like this week. Can you trust Minnie against Buffalo? Can you trust Buffalo to win? No. I mean, you can't trust the Bears. And it's a lot of it is quarterbacks are so weak. I can't play Fields or Goff or Cousins. Denver, Russell Wilson, maybe. Tennessee, who knows who their quarterback is. Can't trust Lawrence. I mean, why are the quarterbacks worse in the pros than they are in college? That's the amazing part. All right, so maybe the Giants laying 1. New Orleans, Pitt. I like New Orleans again, but they play tonight. So let's see what happens if there's any injuries. Pitt's terrible. New Orleans, as long as Kamara is healthy, they're the better team, but can they be favored on the road in this NFL? I doubt it. Oakland, 5.5 over Indy. This is a battle of the worst teams in the league. Oakland getting shut out by New Orleans, dropping the game to Jacksonville. See, and this is the problem. When Oakland loses to Jacksonville, you now think Oakland's terrible, and then you think Jacksonville is better than they are. So this is the problem that we have. We can't look at one game. Although with Oakland, we looked at the shutout of New Orleans, and now they lose to Jacksonville. We go, well, they absolutely suck. But now they're at home. They were on the road playing an Indy team with Ellinger as the quarterback. I got a feeling here Oakland will, not that their back's against the wall. They've only won 2 games. But here I think Oakland just has better talent. And Ellinger will probably start looking better against this defense. But this is a only because Carr and Adams, I think they win. Not by a lot. Dallas, Green Bay. Now here I like Dallas. Dallas is 11-1 as a road favorite. Oh, by the way, Pitt's 5-0 as a home dog. And now I'm stuck to only really going back. I go this year, I go last year and this year, and I go back to 20. So now I'm going 20, 21, and this year and 21. So I can't really go back to 19 and 18 like I used to get. Okay, here's after 75 games. I can't do it because nothing's consistent. Maybe San Diego, Coach Pete, but you don't have Russell Wilson. I mean, who knows? There's so many coaching changes. Dallas 4.5, 43.5 against Green Bay. I like Dallas here. 11-1 is the real favorite. Here I'm pretty confident. Green Bay just sucks. If they can't beat the Lions, they're not going to beat this Dallas defense. Dallas Prescott's coming on. Even if he gets hurt, you got Cooper Rush, which I'm fine with. Dallas, I have -7s, -4.5. That's a joke. Green Bay at home lost to the Jets. Seriously, they lost to the Giants in London. Okay, that's understandable. And then they lost. The next game was at Carolina. I think they lost at Carolina, or was that Tampa? Anyway, they looked like shit after 3 losses in a row. That's why it's not back against the wall, because they're not good enough. A good team back against the wall would have killed the Lions. Okay, it's the Lions. Let's get right. Those 3 interceptions in the end zone. Are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers. So I like Dallas here. I like their defense. The Rams 3 over Arizona. Now here I like a live dog in Arizona. They're 9-0 as a road dog, as against 12-2 bet against home favorite. So where's Arizona? Are they a home favorite? Bet against them. Are they a road dog? We take them. Here I like Arizona. This makes sense. Take Arizona at 9. The Rams suck. They don't have any offense. Aaron Donald, maybe a close game, but I like the dog here. San Francisco 746 over San Diego. We all know about San Diego. Play against. They're 21-4. Strong road dog. Although I didn't write that in. Anyway, oh wait, it might be down there. No, strong road dog. Frisco has injuries. Bosa's out. We got to check the receivers for San Diego. Keenan Allen and Williams both were out yesterday. Keenan Allen played his 1 game of the year, so he's probably out. Very tough one here. I like, I like San Diego in 13. I absolutely do. I don't know about over/under, but San Diego on 13 is too many points. Very strong road dog like Seattle. Philly 10, 44 against Washington. It's all Philly. Play Play against Washington as a road dog, 9-1, 22-4. Play Philly, 7-0, 21-5. So this is a play against Washington, play Philly, lane 10. Philly with the better defense. This I like. This is the only lay 4 I feel comfortable with, Philadelphia. So otherwise, it's the dogs where you mostly. So Carolina, the dog. Seattle, the dog. Minnesota's a dog. Detroit, I still probably will play the over there. Denver, a good dog. Jacksonville, I don't know. That's probably one I won't touch. Miami, Cleveland, probably Cleveland, but I do like Miami at home. The Giants in Houston, who the hell knows? Probably the Giants, but they're just running. All they're doing is running. I mean, it's just a running team. New Orleans, Pitt. We'll have to see tonight if Kamara's healthy. You bet Kamara. If he's healthy, we'll take New Orleans. If he gets hurt, there's injuries, we'll go with Pitt. Oakland, Indy. How can Oakland beat anybody? But I think at home, against Ellinger, I think Oakland at home against Ellinger wins. These two losses were on the road. Jacksonville was extremely tough because they had played at New Orleans, had to fly back to Oakland or stayed on the East Coast. Either way, makes it a very difficult game with Jacksonville. So look for them to be at home and get the win. Dallas over Green Bay, Arizona a live dog, San Diego a live dog, Philadelphia against Washington. So we'll have to look at the Atlanta, Carolina head-to-head. Let's see, Detroit, Chicago head-to-head. Arizona, Ram head-to-head, and Washington, Philly head-to-head. To get a little more digestion. But basically, you can see the difference. I mean, trying to bet pros versus trying to get college, who do you feel comfortable with? Do you feel comfortable with Buffalo? They lost to the fucking Jets. Do you feel comfortable with Detroit against Chicago? Do you feel comfortable with either team there? You've got a mess on your hands. You don't have a UCLA. You don't have a Utah. You don't have a TCU. I feel very comfortable. TCU against Texas Tech. TCU is going to win the game. Even when it was close in the third quarter, I knew TCU was going to win the game. I never had a doubt. I can't name a team. Maybe Philly. Again, it may be Philly, and then maybe Dallas. You don't have Cincy. That's the other problem. You don't have some teams that you might. There's 4 teams off. One of them, Cincinnati. So you might say, oh, I'll bet on this team, but you can't even do that. They're not even playing. Now, it happens in college a little bit, but pretty much I could bet Ohio State last week. I could bet them this week. I bet them against Penn State. You could keep betting them, and you know Ohio State's class. These are the dumbest GMs. I don't know what to say. I don't know. Oakland should kill Indy. Can you take them? Are they going to beat Indy? I mean, with Ellinger? The Rams in Arizona, that's an even. Okay, that one I feel good. Frisco, San Diego, okay, it's an even game. Is Philly really going to blow out Washington? Maybe you can trust Philly. Are they really that good? I don't trust them. I don't trust Jalen Hurts. So that's where you get it. It's the blow should kill Minnesota, but it's a take the dog, I think. I think it's a close game. Minnesota's got skill. They should be able to hang in there. Can they win at Buffalo? That would be – nobody really wins at Buffalo, so this would be interesting. But they haven't played – they play the Jets, New England, and Miami. They don't – last year they lost to Pitt at home, and they lost to Tennessee at home. They were losing to better teams at home. So I'm not sold on Buffalo, and I'm certainly not sold on Josh Allen, especially those – tell me how real that first interception was against the Jets at the 5. Now, I had the Jets. I didn't have Buffalo. It was the worst interception I've ever seen. He threw it right to the Jets guy at the 5-yard line. And I knew that's like the signal, right? It's like, okay, he did that. They're going to lose, or they're never going to cover the 10. That was like the tell. Okay, they're not going to do it. So, again, it's extremely difficult. Teams on trends, Seattle, Buffalo, actually, Jacksonville, Miami, Dallas, Arizona, Frisco, and Philadelphia are teams that are winning on teasers. My play list: this Minnesota, Atlanta, Philly, Dallas, Houston, and Seattle are like 8-0 or 7-1 this year. Even though they played 9 games with the bye. So those are the hot teams, right? So Philly's okay, Dallas, yeah, Houston, Atlanta, and then Minnie and Seattle. So Buffalo's not on the list. So it makes it difficult, but that's the thing. Oakland should kill Houston. Houston shouldn't win a game, and I think they've only won one. So I think, and here the line's 5.5. So there, these over unders. How does Green Bay Detroit not go over is just such bullshit that I bet there's big money bet on the over. But Rodgers 3 interceptions, dude. What was this? What was the spread? You're laying 4.5. You could have won by a field goal. You didn't have to lose and only score 9 on 3 interceptions. You did. What the fuck was that? I mean, in the end zone, yeah, that's 21 points. You killed the over, and you don't even win the game. You're okay to win it by 3. And then everybody thinks Detroit's defense is good. Oh, yeah. Wait till Fields lights you up. And he won't even complete a pass. Anyway, so that is a look at what happened last week, lessons learned. The bottom line is you want to play good passing teams against over defenses. And unfortunately, in the NFL, there's very few over defenses. The Lions being one of them. So we like the Bears over. And you just there's nothing you can do with turnovers. The Washington State Stanford game, I can't predict 5 one-play fumbles by Stanford in the first half. That's unbelievable. It's 28-0 Washington State. It's fumble, one play, fumble, one play, fumble. Washington State scores touchdowns. I mean, that was unbelievable. And yet Stanford beat Notre Dame. I mean, it's insane. So anyway, that's what you got. You have to be able to rank the teams, right? You got to know if they're an over team or an under team. You want to bet against weak defenses. That's the best way to do it. You can't do it any other way, but you've got to be able to analyze. That's why you got me. Is it real or not? In other words, Vanderbilt beat Hawaii and then beat Vanderbilt State or whatever. All of a sudden they're scoring 60 points a game. Is that real? When they get into the SEC and they play Alabama, are they going to score 60? No, they lost 55-3. When they played Georgia, no, they lost 58-0. So now who's the real Vanderbilt? So that's why you got to weed out some of these weak Division II and weak Z team games and see how they do against the better team. So we saw the real Vandy against Alabama and Georgia. I mean, we're seeing, we see Oklahoma has no defense. We see Baylor is very strong, and TCU is TCU beat Oak State. We beat Kansas. They beat Kansas State, who now looks like a real good team. So, wow, TCU is really strong, which they beat good teams now. Like if Tennessee beats Georgia, I'd bet them against anybody. They couldn't do it. So now we just stay on Georgia as we knew anyway. I wasn't going to get off of Georgia, but I would have been shocked if Tennessee put 40 points up on Georgia. It ain't happening. So let's see what the line is on Georgia this week, and we can go make some more money betting on the under and that with them. But anyway, so that's what we have. Questions, comments, let me know. I'll be looking at now I'm going to get the lines. Now I've digested how I'm going to play the games. Now the NFL, I got the lines already. But in college, I'm going to get the lines. So I've already looked. Do I want them over? Do I want them that? And I did that with the pros last night. Knowing I'm traveling, I can really study college tomorrow on the plane. I love this. I go to Europe, so I leave at 4. I get there at, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, roughly. And then it's 6 in the morning because I'll be in Germany. Or 7 in the morning, and then you got to stay up because you got a flight out at 10 o'clock. So it's a real tired day tomorrow. That's why I'm doing all this today. Anyway, so questions, comments, let me know. We will see. I'll post everything probably by Wednesday. Look for some locks. These over college games, I'll post them depending on the line. And I got to check the injuries, and I might give it a day so I don't get burned by Oak State again. And I'm assuming Sanders is out, so I'm not even going to mess around with Oak State. I think they play Iowa State, so it'd be an under even if Sanders is playing. So I'll have to look at that line. Anyway, so that's it. That's how we beat Vegas. That's how we beat our books, by doing that. And they don't do that. They're just looking at statistics. Well, Oklahoma averages this and they give up this and this is that. This is the line based on averages, and that's why we kill them. Sean, does Portugal have casinos, sports books? I don't have any idea. I think they would have a casino. I doubt sports books are in Europe like they are in Vegas. I'd be shocked, but they might have a casino there. I can check. I don't care. I'm not going to probably go to the casino. We'll see, but I doubt it. That's not my plan. My plan is to go on the beach and relax and look at houses and see if my ounce of gold will buy me a nice house there soon. Anyway, look out for the markets. They're really close to crashing. The banks are buying physical gold because they can't sell all their derivatives. That's why the price of gold and silver is low, is they're trying to buy it so they can, because the derivatives are all going to get killed. All the banks are going to lose trillions of dollars in these derivatives. So they can't sell them because nobody in their right mind wants to buy them. So what's happening is they're buying the physical because they know they're going to get fucked. So oh shit, I'm going to lose $1 trillion. I got to buy $1 trillion worth of gold and silver to cover all my derivatives that are going to go underwater. And that's what they're doing. And that's why the price is low. And that's why they're buying it and it's gone. And that's why it's just more, it's going to go through the roof. So keep that in mind. Gold and silver is going to just hit the moon, and it's going to be real soon because they just can't hold it anymore. It's just at that point. Just look out. So that's what's happening. Buy as much gold and silver as you can, because my guy was out of gold, didn't go Saturday because I need the money for the trip. And we'll see. I'll maybe look for gold and silver in Portugal. It's in euros, so I'll see what the price is there. Pick up some silver, but we'll see. I got silver, but you just don't know how much you need. I mean, I got a lot, and I go, well, maybe I could always grab another 10 ounces. It's only $250 or whatever. So it's so cheap that you're just going, well, I'll buy some more. Even though I might not need it, buy more. I got a lot of girlfriends to take care of who are going to be, they're all going to be needing silver and then gold. Anyway, I think that's about it. So be careful. The election tomorrow, I'm going to go fill up my car with gas like now, because I'm afraid after the election, it's all going to jump back up. They've been holding it down. So that's what I'm looking at. And then it'll be just sitting at the airport anyway. So we shall see. I think that's about it. I got to remember everything. I think I get my boarding pass at the airport now. I don't know. It's so confusing. I booked it on Cheapo Air and it's through United, and I don't know. So I'll just go, and I think they have those little computer things, and you put your ticket up and it spits out your boarding pass. And then I'm just carrying on my stuff. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. I will send stories back when I'm done. Take plenty of pictures. It's a good hotel for a week. It's only $1,100. It's a 5-star, supposedly. We'll see. And I'm curious about the ocean, and I'll look for the Money Heist house. That's got 90 tons of gold in it. It's funny, 90 tons you thought was a lot, and then China's got 23,000 tons, and you're like, oh, well, maybe it's not that much, but Anyway, it's just never been there, and I'll look for the Money Heist cast. I'll see if I can see him in a restaurant or something. I'll go up to him and analyze the end of the show. Why did the kid steal the gold from you? Why did Berlin's kid steal the gold from you? You're like, steal from the bank, but you don't steal from your uncle. That's the only plot line I am just like, yeah, he gives it back, but why would he take it in the first place? Anyway, go to www.teaserking.com. You guys have questions or comments, please email me there. You get my email, and I'll be happy to answer questions. So I'll try to do a show Friday. Now, keep in mind, it's 2:00. It's 2:30 in Michigan. It's, I think, either 8:30 or 9:30 in Portugal. So even if I do a show, it's going to be all fucked up with the time, unless I do it. When I wake up, I'm going to be going to the breakfast. I'm not going to be doing a show. If I do a show at noon, that's what, 5 in the morning here, 6 in the morning. So that's too early. So I got to do it at night. Maybe I'll do a night show Friday night at before dinner at 4:30, which would be about 10:30. So it'd be about this time. So maybe I'll do a Friday before dinner show. I'll see. That depends on what's going on there. Anyway, stay safe. Beware. We're all getting fucked. So all you can do is buy gold and silver to ignore that. Get out of the fucking stock market. It's going to collapse. They're holding it up. Oil prices going up. Diesel's $5, which is going to create food to go up. Buy as much as you can. Throw it in your freezer. Go to Bobby's house. Bobby's probably got a big freezer you can put a lot of our shit into. Anyway, take care. Have a good week. Good luck to everybody. And I'll try to come back on, let's assume Friday, but I can't promise anything. Anyway, get my email and you can keep in contact. www.teaserking.com. All right, everybody. Good luck. We got New Orleans tonight. I already have them in a teaser with Seattle getting, I think, 8. So good luck with that. All right. Thank you.